Good evening everyone, Daniel Miller here. How you guys all doing? Thank you so much for joining our The Division 2 open beta review session. As you know, anytime we test any of the new games through open beta or demo, we hold some review sessions in order to summarize the views, opinions and thoughts that our community members and gamers have, and then at the end of that set, and send it back to the developer. In this instance, we are talking about Ubisoft and Massive Entertainment. As you know, they are the creator stroke publisher of this beautiful new tactical shooter. And indeed, we've had a wonderful extended weekend. We thoroughly enjoyed the gameplay. I have to say, the final version of open beta was almost completely glitch-free. So that was really quite astonishing. There were a few glitches in there, but compared to everything else I've seen in the recent years, and most notably what I've experienced with Anthem demo, both VIP and open, as well as Apex Legends once the game was launched, was certainly a very different kind of experience because you know, Anthem was very glitched and marred by technical problems, and regrettably I keep hearing even today that the problems are persisting. In fact, they are even amalgamating. Don't know whether you've heard, but there were reports over the weekend that the latest update on Anthem was creating a massive operations OS crash on PlayStation 4, and some people complained that they couldn't restart the console, and the OS and the hardware suffered some serious damage. I'm not sure whether these reports are correct or exaggerated, but I do know that what I experienced in the demo period was something similar, and that was the game would crash both the game and then the OS on PlayStation 4, and you know, therefore it was very important to switch off the console, reload the game and then crack on. And it's very disappointing, and I think obviously a very major headache for the publisher BioWare. They also asked the or the developer, I should say, BioWare, they also asked the publisher, Electronic Arts, known as EA, to help out, because they want to find out what is the reason for that kind of major technical glitch, which is causing people, you know, to worry about the console. As you know, our consoles are a very precious piece of equipment. They're generally very expensive. If you're a proud owner of PlayStation Pro, you would have invested between £400 and £500 into that console alone, and evidently having any form of software that comes in and causes a virus or any other major hardware problem is of grave concern. So I have to say, when I commenced with the Division 2 open beta on Friday, was it on Thursday? On Friday, in fact, yeah, I was preloading on Thursday. I was having perhaps no expectations at all on the technical front. I just, anticipated there will be some problems. But actually, all the way, I think, down to Sunday morning, I've had no glitches whatsoever. So let's just have a look at the actual game. We'll introduce the Division series a bit. We talk a bit about what the intention there is coming from the developer. And then we'll provide a forum for a very open, very direct feedback, because I want to hear from all of my community members and gamers who engaged. I was very, very happy to see that lots of our Destiny veterans joining as well. Basically what they felt, what their experience was, and also I'm particularly interested to hear from people playing it on different platforms, because as you know, presently, due to the fact that this channel is fairly new, I'm doing everything through PlayStation 4, but I'm also both a gamer and a streamer on PC and Xbox One, so I'm very curious to hear how people experience the game through all the other platforms, because as you know, we really want to be collating as much information as possible, and the game is due to come out on the 15th of March, but all the comments coming in on Reddit or directly to the EA Stroke Massive Entertainment Hub will be noted, and they will be taken on board, because everybody wants to know how the gamers experienced this beautiful new tactical shooter. So, what is Tom Clancy's Division 2? For everyone who's joined us and who's perhaps wondering and is not familiar with this, well, I should say new franchise, but it's actually still evolving because this is only the installment 2. So basically, the Tom Clancy's Division 2 is an upcoming online paid action role-playing video game. We could call it action RPG. And as you know, it's been developed by Massive Entertainment and then published by Ubisoft. Ubisoft is well known for tactical shooters and very many other stealth games. You will recall Splinter Cell in the older days, and in the recent years we all loved and engaged Rainbow Six Siege as much as we could. So the Division somewhere falls into that category of tactical shooter. You will have a team of 4 engaging the enemy, and obviously you can play it as a team of 1 or team of 2 or 3. But my personal experience of the weekend was that the game was really best enjoyed if you had a tactical team of 4, and I'll tell you in a moment as to why. So the game is going to be released for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on March the 15th of this year, of course, so that's just about 2 weeks away. If you pre-order the game on any of the editions, you have about 2 or 3 tier editions, ending with gold and platinum and all that, you will be also getting lots of extra goodies. So anyone who loved the game, I would advise you to pre-order. You will support the publisher, obviously, and you will get all the other goodies. And most importantly, if you're buying the editions that include the annual pass, you will be receiving in the course of your next 12 months all the DLC and any kind of add-on and game development for free as a part of that package, which is going to be very, very handy. Don't forget, the industry is moving into this direction. We've seen several big games offering this. Bungie, probably the most significant amongst all, with the Destiny 2 Forsaken, and various seasons that they introduced through the annual pass. The second season has just commenced, for anyone who's not familiar, and if you've not tried it, I most highly recommend you to basically consider it. Destiny is a wonderful, wonderful game. Unbelievably big, with lots of different options to which you can obviously decide on how to play. Ideally played also as a multiplayer, engaging with your friends and colleagues online, and then cracking on against all those enemies. So the Division is very similar. Have a team of 4, and it's best experienced in a team. So generally the game is played from a third-person perspective, and the game takes place in Washington DC. So it's not taking place in NYC compared to the first one, but in DC, and the actual story starts 7 months after its predecessor. So it's like survivors and villainous bands of marauders breaks out, right? In the game, players can cooperate with each other to complete objectives, and believe you me, there are very many objectives which you can find in there. The game will also feature raids, which can be completed by up to 8 players together. I can see that we have some community members coming in already. Let me just tell you, we are broadcasting on Twitch, but we are also rerouted through 20 different platforms, so people may be watching what you say. And if you join us for live audio through PlayStation 4 Party Chat, then you will be also recorded and indeed archived. So bear in mind that this is also a family-friendly channel, so everything you write and you say, I would expect to be, within those parameters of family-friendly content. Gangster is here, 09. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming in and participating in our review. Thank you for becoming a member of the Division 2 community. And Gangster's asking, is the beta still open? The beta is no longer open. It closed today at 10 o'clock AM European time, I should say, the UK time. That would have been 11 o'clock. No, I beg your pardon. 10 o'clock European time, 9 o'clock UK time. Right? So the cutoff point was earlier today in the morning. And for anyone who engaged the Division 2 at the weekend, you still had the whole night, and you could have really tried unlocking the end game, which is what I've done. And Stutz is here as well. Hello Stutz, how are you doing? Thank you for joining, and thank you for being a member of our community. Hope you will enjoy the review. Hope everybody else is going to join in and tell us what they felt about the Division 2. And Stutz says, well, he wishes that indeed the open beta was still up and running. And you know what? Me too. And I'll tell you why. I was surprised with how vast the beta was. We had so many options to which we can play the game. If you look at the actual concept, we were given, I think, 5 side missions and 3 story missions, plus the end game. But if you're not using fast travel, if you're obviously walking through the streets, you're constantly engaging the enemy from everywhere, and you have so many different areas of conflict with different warring factions emerging. And basically you can then defend those points, you can attack them, you can neutralize the enemy, you can try out different strategies. I have to say, when playing in teams, I was able to flank quite well with the other guys, and we had some sort of tactic made on the spot. It worked very, very well. In fact, probably the best tactics I've had was when I played about, I think, 10 times with a cooperative team of 2, myself and another gamer, and that worked beautifully. Really, it was like a section attack, 2 people attacking, going backwards and forwards, one obviously watching the other person's back and using sniper rifle and everything. So absolutely magnificent. I loved it. Gangster says, does your progress save from the beta? There's been a lot of debate on that in the recent months, not just to do with the Division 2 but all the other games, and a lot of gamers would like to have some degree of privilege after participating in beta tests, and they would want for the scores and results to be recorded and then imported to the final game. Unfortunately, that is considered by the industry to be a non-starter. And I tell you why. They want people, when they start the game from its release date, to basically start from scratch. You'll start with nil. And that's particularly the case for those competitive games where you have multiplayer kind of PvP matches, and when you are collecting different items in order to level up and all that. So they consider it still to be unfair to allow that sort of migration of your data to the final game. Therefore, regrettably, the Division 2 beta is cannot be imported to the final game. So whatever you achieved during your many hours on the weekend is going to stay there, and it will not travel to the full game. Sadly so, but that's the way it is. Stutz says the DZ with another was amazing. Absolutely. The what's called the Death Zone, wasn't it? The section in there with all those tasks such as extractions, then all the enemies that had to be defeated, and many checkpoints, and what were they? The main entrance points, weren't they? There were about 6 or 7 there, bordering the area. I thought were terrific, and I've done several times Dark Zone, I beg your pardon. I keep thinking of Death Zone from another game. I've done the Dark Zone several times on the weekend with several teams, and we were usually a team of 3. A couple of times we were a small team of 2, and we've had terrific fun. But you know, if you played it as well, you would have recognized that the enemies in there are very difficult, and they come after you in very large numbers. So you better be tactical, you better be equipped, you better know what you're doing, and also what kit you're using, because you know, if you have a team of 3 or 4, they're tactical, then you're alright. But otherwise, it's quite tricky. We didn't race. You know, we had obviously some of our teammates down several times, and obviously we revived them and we attacked the enemy. But I thought the idea of collecting the bits and doing extractions was very, very good, because whenever you're doing extraction, you would come under massive attack. You had to focus, and you know, you had to really be on the ball, so to speak. And also the atmosphere. You know, it was a bit like coming from Fallout to Resident Evil. You know, that sort of thing, because obviously that area is contaminated. There are many more dangers in there. There are different types of enemies located in the dark zone. I think it's great. And also, if you looked at the map, you could see that there are so many different areas which are not unlocked for the open beta. So that's going to be very, very interesting. And Stoot says, yeah, the dark zone was a lot harder than the rest. Well, it was, you know, but I have to say that if you were attacking, you know, one of these fortified points that the enemies were holding, and then you kicked them out and you had to defend it, well, that was quite hard as well. There were very, very many enemies. I've done it in a team of 2 several times, and my goodness, it was hair-raising, and we had to be repeating it quite a few times. So there are literally various sections of the gameplay that vary in difficulty. To tell you the truth, when I started right at the beginning, and when I was leveling up, probably for that first 3 or 4 levels, I thought, hang on a minute, this seems to be like really easy. That's a pedestrian. I'm just walking to these areas, knocking out the enemies, no big deal. But then, as soon as I thought that, obstacles arose. I was being hit by really hard enemies, and you know, the game just ascended in terms of the difficulty level. And I thought, hang on a minute, I shouldn't think like this, because if I think about it, you know, the algorithm's going to read my mind and they're going to make it difficult for me. 3 or 4 difficulty levels right at the beginning, which one can also choose. And I think we were a bit restricted in beta in terms of what we could do, and but I thought it was a very, very good introduction. So let me just very, very quickly elaborate on the actual game development and what happened so far. Just, you know, a couple of words on this. You know that the developer is the same as in the first game. They're called Massive Entertainment. And evaluating the feedback from very many gamers worldwide regarding the first game, Massive Entertainment planned to include a lot more game content from the word go in order to improve the end game. The game's endgame development was prioritized by Massive Entertainment after hearing players' complaints from the first game. In fact, I talked to some of our community members during the weekend who were expressing that concern about the first game, in fact, and I think if they entered open beta, they would have seen straight away that the developer spent a lot of time on improving the game and making it, I guess, more diverse, and that absolutely worked. Honestly, the visual quality, you know, the visual quality of the game, the atmosphere, the music, the sounds, where you can hear everything, and it's just so immersive and so atmospheric. At the same time, I have to say, it is not a high adrenaline game. You know, in the recent times I've played PUBG and Apex, which obviously are PvP, and you got other people doing Battle Royale. And they're very, very high energy adrenaline types of games. You can play them for hours and you always feel you can carry on, and there's always another match and this and the other. This game is not like that, although the other games as well require a lot of thinking. They're your thinking man's game rather than just shoot them up. I think the Division 2 requires a lot more thinking if you are to be pursuing certain objectives, and specifically if you are working in a team of 4. Best played with a team of 4, which is a steady team, your crew, because you'll know exactly what you're doing, and particularly if you have some sort of military experience and that, you can just resort to the usual kind of, you know, army comms, and it makes it nice and easy when you are doing the usual section attacks, progressing forward and providing cover fire or asking for airstrikes. You know, the general kind of stuff makes it a lot easier than otherwise. Sometimes when I play with the guys who are not at home with target indication, for instance, then, you know, they get muddled. They say, well, the enemy's over there. Well, where? Yeah, it could be anywhere. And that's, I think in Apex they try to resolve this by providing you a ping. So when you can see or hear the enemy, you just ping the red dot in there. That means they're there, so everyone can see them, which is actually useful. And when combined together with your proper target indication on, you know, audio comms, then it works out very well. So coming back to the brief description, the developer really took on board everything said, basically from the community, and they obviously invested a lot of time and effort in improving it. And I thought this was visible after the last E3. They had quite a big clip of gameplay, which I think is somewhere towards the end, where the team of 4 is battling a very, very nasty crew in there. I can't remember, it was some sort of was it a downed plane or something? And you know, it was a very, very highly energetic, difficult battle, and it seemed to me straight away that they've invested a lot in the gameplay of, you know, that nature. Many people involved, lots of different enemies attacking. You had to be really thinking very quickly. You had to be at home with how you're using your kit, how you're switching weapons, how you are using some special skills which you have. In fact, I was using the weapon that is based on it's like a chemical mortar round, and you're firing it at the enemy, and it's very useful because the enemy doesn't usually die after you used it, but you can use it as a distraction. And secondly, you can make sure that they leave that position, because as soon as you fired the chemical into their direction, if it lands near them, they'll be trying to flee it because they're worried that they might burn. And as they obviously give away the position, your teammates can just open up on them, and that means they're certainly gone. It's a very, very good tactical add-on, which I used extensively throughout the whole weekend. So the game was announced on March the 9th of 2018 by Ubisoft, with the first gameplay footage premiered at the Electronic Entertainment E3, basically 2018, in June of last year. And during this event, Ubisoft confirmed that the game will be released on 15th of March of 2019 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. A private beta, as you know, was held a couple of weeks ago, and we've had this weekend, obviously, for the open beta. And after the game's release, 3 episodes of downloadable content, which add new story, content and game modes, will be released for all players for free. So we obviously are looking forward to that. But make no mistake, the actual story missions and the gameplay in The Division 2, from what we could gather so far, is very, very big. And you will have plenty of time to engage the enemy, go through your story missions, and enjoy every single bit of it. So there's no need to rush and, you know, try to reach the score within the first week, just because a couple of weeks later the extra content will come your way. You can do it just nicely, easily, and step by step, and therefore you'll be able to enjoy the gameplay as well as acquire many skills, because the skills will be definitely needed as you're progressing forward with the DLC. I would imagine that the DLC will add some difficulty levels, and, you know, whatever happens later may well turn out to be based on the use of those skills and experience acquired early in the game, which is obviously going to be very important. So these were just a few words on the game development, and as you know, developer is Massive Entertainment, publisher is Ubisoft, the director of the game is Matthias Carlsen, composer is Ola Strand. The series is basically a part of Tom Clancy's ventures, and many of those which we played over the years, inclusive of Splinter Cell, are based on some of his very popular spy novels. Snowdrop is the engine which is used for the game. We know that it is going to be released on all 3 platforms. March the 15th of 2019 is the day where the full game is going to be fully accessible. Just a remark on everyone who's pre-ordering: everyone who pre-ordered will be able to access the game 3 days earlier. Right? So if you pre-order between today and the 12th, so that's about 10 days, right? 7-8 days, you are going to be able to access the game a few days in advance, engage early, and indeed if you're a streamer, online entrepreneur, you can join in and stream and, you know, present everything to the world a few days in advance, which is what people did with Anthem recently. But as I said, Anthem streams and gameplay were very seriously hampered by those technical difficulties. And as you know, for all of you who are my community members here, I've been running a campaign, which is the Anthem donor campaign. I obviously acquired the funds in order to purchase it early, but after testing it, I have to say, so many problems, so many crashes, and therefore I'm waiting for the technical issues to be resolved before I start with my daily streams on Anthem. And that's disappointing because we all wanted to start early and wanted to have the community built from the day one. But, you know, constantly needing to reload the game, constantly needing to restart the broadcast is something that I do not want to do. It's taxing on my health and my patience, and it's certainly very hard on my viewers' eyes and ears. Therefore, we're just waiting for everything to be resolved. And yes, sometimes you get games with its problems and they're persisting for a few weeks. And we know full well that everybody wants to get in first. That's just the way things are today. But then on the other hand, if my gameplay is, you know, the enjoyment of the gameplay is spoiled by these technical issues, then I'd rather wait and then provide everything in a properly, fully fledged, pedestrian, highly enjoyable format. We have some questions in here. Swala says, I hope they do not change the game like Division 1. Well, Swala, thank you first of all for coming here, joining our review, and being a member of our community, the Division 2 community that is, and the gaming online community, you know, because this channel has many Destiny 1 and 2 veterans. We have some people who love Apex. We have some Elder Scrolls veterans. We have people who are the veterans of Halo. We have people from all sorts of games, you know. But I think overall we always focused on the games which are highly immersive, on those which are providing us with a massive content which we can enjoy, you know, for many months and years, and the games which are also mind-provoking, meaning they are initiating discussion, because this channel is all about dialogue, about connecting people, about communicating about things we love doing the best in gaming, and then coming up with our own thoughts and views. So Swala, I can tell you after watching and playing the Division 2 open beta, not just that they did not change the game, they had massively enhanced it. And what's very important is when you start playing it, you feel automatically at home with the agents and your HQ. It's identical to the Destiny 1, right? So it's exactly the same. It's just a bit more enhanced. You will find a few add-ons which are helpful. And the way you use your inventory is very easy. On PlayStation, you can use your touchpad or options button. By clicking on those, you're accessing an array of different options. What's particularly useful is that you can be calling for backup if you are doing a mission by yourself, and let's say your friends are not around or you don't have anyone from your community to join you, and there will be people all weekend. Several missions where I felt that I was just alone, I didn't fancy doing it by myself. I clicked on calling for backup, and the backup was coming very quickly. On the other hand, if you have, let's say, a period of a few minutes without anyone coming to your rescue, what you can do is you go to matchmaking, and matchmaking is very refined. You've got random missions, you've got Dark Zone, you have specific missions, and then the team is going to be brought in. The only trouble is if you have teams that are already there, let's say teams of 2s and 3s, and then you're being brought to them, and they're in their own party, it could feel a bit disjointed, you know. But, you know, doesn't have to be much of concern. You can communicate directly, you can talk through voice chat, you can send them messages, you can squad up and maybe do some missions together. And it's funny because yesterday I was brought into about 3 of those, and then all of them were just basically finishing off the missions. As soon as I joined, they all left. And it was not to do with me, it was just simply to do with the fact that the missions came to, you know, the end. And that was it, really. But a very, very well developed system from the first game, highly enjoyable. very massive and very much focused on cooperative team effort, meaning focused on people doing it together. Anything from 2 persons to 4 gamers. And as you've heard, although I've not seen that in the beta, they're planning also the section called raids, and in there you will have a section of 8 people. So it'll be a squad of 8, so you could say 2 sections of 4, and that really is falling in line with some of the military tactics which are deployed out there in the open world, well, the real life world today. So anybody who wants to be strategizing and coming up with certain kinds of bits of tactics, well, that's going to be definitely the way forward. And I'm kind of wondering whether the team of 8 is going to be also fighting other teams of 8, perhaps PvP, I'm not sure. It might be team of 8 attacking the environment, we'll have to see. But in any case, it looks very promising. I did not see anything that would be of concern compared to the first game. If anyone else did, then please raise your hand and tell us. Basically, Skill is here. Hello, how are you? Thanks very much for joining our community. Thank you for being here, for discussing the Division 2 Open Beta, for being a part of our review. Thank you for coming. And basically is asking, is the beta still playable? Unfortunately, the beta is no longer playable. It closed at around 10 o'clock European time, 9 o'clock British time earlier today. It was accessible from early on Friday to today. So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, you could say maybe 4.5 days roughly to play the game and enjoy all of its niceties. Unfortunately, it is no longer open. And also what I need to stress is, we had some questions earlier on asking about this. All the achievements and results that were built and acquired during the weekend are to stay without the beta. They cannot be imported to the full game. So remember that. You cannot import any of that into the full game. It will stay with its beta, and the beta is no longer accessible. It may be that in the future they will enable some sections for people to use it as a demo or something, but it was literally the means to which the gamers could be first of all testing the new game and then providing the developer with feedback. As you know, it's the online gaming community is all about connection and communication. So the developers are very keen on providing us with some content, and in fact this was quite a lot of content. It was massive, similar to Anthem, to what I've done a few weeks ago, and then receiving the feedback from us. So I just also like to invite everyone, if you've not done so, to provide your own personal feedback directly to the developer, either on Twitter or through their dedicated Reddit channel. They have a thread. They have allocated this Reddit thread, big one, and it is solely dedicated to this feedback. So whenever you write, don't make it Bible style, extremely long, but make it like really crisp, short and punchy, with the points which are focused on what you liked and what you didn't like. Obviously, the developer is asking for the both. They would be not happy if they were receiving just praise, because that would be completely unrealistic. There are going to be people there who find something which is perhaps not quite right or not particularly good. So, coming back to what happened so far, let me just have a look. Just bear with me. I want to see whether we have some reviews online already. And I can see that there have been some interesting bits of news. Like Alt Chair was saying that there's been some confusion on the actual beta length, and there were some bits of news fluctuating that perhaps the beta is going to be extended. Well, that's completely wrong, and that is also misconstrued. In no circumstances was there anybody indicating that they will be extending it. There's been some confusion about the cut-off point, because a lot of people expected that to be on Monday at 10 o'clock AM, but actually they did state quite clearly that they will still enable everyone to try the beta on Monday, and you know, they are going to be then cutting off the access to the server on Tuesday morning, which is what happened today. I can see that we have Dimitris184. Hello Dimitris, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being obviously a member of our community, joining us in our review. Today we are reviewing The Division 2, the beautiful new tactical shooter coming out of Ubisoft, and its open beta, which we all played and enjoyed during the last 4 to 5 days. And Dimitri says hey, and I'm saying hey, how are you? How are you doing? Thank you for coming, thank you for joining, thank you for being obviously a member of our online gaming community. This channel is dedicated to immersive, appealing, interesting, mind-boggling games. So we have, well, the channel has been linked to Destiny in particular, and we have very many Destiny 1 and 2 veterans here almost on an everyday basis. But in the recent times I also stream Apex Legends, I will be streaming Anthem, The Division 1 had been streamed in the past, and we are going to be kind of revisiting it in view of the new game coming out, so we will have some The Division 1 streams during the next few weeks, and you know, many other games in fact. So we are, well, I'm personally a great fan of massive big RPGs and open world games, and obviously some of those are also FPS, you know, or TPS. All of those are greatly enjoyed. And Dimitris is here and says, hello, I'm fine, how about you? I can say to Dimitris that I'm fabulous. I had a very, very good weekend, and I thoroughly enjoyed my The Division 2 open beta. In fact, the entire weekend was dedicated to open beta, inclusive of Friday and Monday, and that was wonderful. I had lots of new friends coming in and joining in, and people playing it together with me. As you know, sometimes when you are testing a new game, and particularly when you have open beta, our channels are not particularly busy in terms of communication and that, because everybody is unwilling to be communicating as people are doing their own game. They're trying it, they're finding out for themselves what the game's like. So, you know, it is one of those things, and I always hold review sessions at the end of that period for any of those games, and then we get very, very busy. I have to say, as this is a new gaming channel, I've had a very, very busy Anthem review sessions. I had about 2,000 people coming in and reviewing it together with me and communicating, and we've had, you know, many people coming in and discussing their thoughts and views. So it was very, very good, and this is what BioWare obviously wanted to see, and I've sent them a resume of all that's been said, and it was very positive. People just loved the game. They were not really focused on all those technical problems which we experienced, but they just looked forward to you know, they looked forward to the experience of that massive big Anthem open world. So, Dimitris, have you also played The Division 2 during the weekend? How did you find it? Have you enjoyed it? What did you find good? What did you find perhaps less appealing? I want to hear from everyone, you know, I want to hear from everyone, and particularly from people who played it also on other platforms. I've been on PlayStation 4, but many people are doing it on PC and on Xbox. So you can tell me whether the game was smooth, whether you liked the actual experience, whether it had any glitches, any of that. So coming back to what I was saying earlier about the the beta duration, they said that Ubisoft stated that Division 2 open beta would run from the 1st to 4th of March, and then there was the aura of 24-hour extension, but that's actually complete nonsense. Sometimes you get certain things online which really are, you know, very, very divorced from reality. I did receive official news and confirmation through Ubisoft, and they were indicating quite clearly that on Tuesday there is going to be a cutoff point, right? Just looking at some of the things said in here, really it's not very interesting, I really have to say. But let's have a look at the tips, details, post-launch content as revealed on IGN. That will be very much of interest. And let me just have a look. I have a lot of messages coming in. We have Dimitris here. Dimitris said, I haven't played the game yet, but I want to see from you if you want. I have a PS4 too. And Dimitri is asking, what is your playing the Division 2? And I will be also streaming it, because in the recent times I've been whenever I played the game, it was always obviously on my gaming channel as well, rather than just doing it outside of the broadcasting equation. So yeah, indeed, I will be playing the Division 2 once it comes out. Maybe not on the first week, we'll have to see, because, you know, my Anthem streams are still pegged and still in line, basically, in queue, if you could say. They're queuing up in order to be done. But I think maybe the Division 2 and Anthem could be also a good combination. But don't forget, we are still doing Destiny here, so there will be then 3 games in the air. We'll have to see. You know, we'll work out the schedule in order to please the viewers and make sure that everyone's happy. Because obviously, for many of our Destiny veterans, they are maybe slightly concerned that they've not seen much of Destiny during the recent weeks, and there is a reason for that. I was promoting Apex, and therefore I couldn't squeeze in Destiny during those 2 weeks. Then we had the whole week of Destiny, and then now we've had the Division 2 open beta. So Dimitris asked me, what is your name in PSN? On PlayStation Network, my account is DRBMiller. So this is Delta Romeo Bravo, DRB Miller as in Miller, right? Very easy to find. Just add on PlayStation app and I'll accept you as soon as you do so. Right, so we are looking at the Division 2 open beta tips and details, post-launch content and everything else, as reported by IGN. I hope you guys are also following the news on Eurogamer, on IGN, on Games Radar, all the major industry hubs out there, because if you do so, then obviously you are very connected to everything hot off the press, and you are then able to learn about all the niceties coming our way from the developers. So what I said, that for those who are still interested in the Division 2, IGN has over 40 tips and tricks for the Division 2 open beta, including tips for combat, multiplayer, and for just starting your adventure. Additionally, you can be sure to read IGN opinion piece about how the Division 2 can capitalize on shortcomings of Anthem at its launch. So we'll have a look at that. I'm quite curious, because obviously I'm quite curious to see what IGN said, and there are definitely some similarities between the Division, both 1 and 2, and Anthem in terms of its kind of tactical gameplay, the strategy through which you are engaging a team of 4. Because in both games you have a team of 4, each one of the members is a specialist. Dimitris is asking, whereabouts are you? And where do you have Rainbow Six Siege, I believe you're asking. Well, I'm in London, United Kingdom, England, and I do have Rainbow Six Siege, yes. It's also a wonderful tactical shooter, both similar and very different to the Division 2. I guess for anybody who likes tactical shooters, during the last 4 years, they would have been playing those 2 games, for certain. You know, that is basically what I learned from many other gamers that come to my channel. And, you know, being able to strategize with your mates and being able to attack all these enemies is always very, very entertaining and enjoyable. Dimitri says, oh, that's great, so we can play together. Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, one of the best things about broadcasting on Twitch and other channels is that many community members at times can come in and then do cooperative gameplay. In fact, last night, one of our very dedicated community members, Matthias from the US, was discussing a few things with me, and I think on the night before we also played the open beta together, and you know, he was able to team up with some other people who came to the channel and then organize raids. And in fact, as he is the veteran Destiny gamer, he spent more than 2,000 hours in the game, he is also able to provide advice on the content and gameplay and tips. So, you know, the actual broadcast is not just about what I'm doing, it's all about connecting with others and providing quality content, which also is a result of our communication live. So people resort to the channel, come back and, you know, watch our comments and views. Sometimes if we have a focus session like open beta review, I may bring in on live audio through my, you know, party chat a few people, and then we talk live and other people, you know, communicate through chat, in written chat on Twitch. It becomes a very, very connecting, very engaging type of exercise. And Dimitri says, I hope your Twitch channel will grow fast. Well, thank you so much, sir. In fact, it is growing exponentially, and unlike many other people who are buying followers and subscribers through many other, you know, online channels, I'm focused on the quality content. So the way it works is, if you have a few hundred people who are your everyday users and everyday viewers, and in addition to that, who are your everyday contributors, then you literally can be very relaxed, because I can assure you that the quality content which comes from our discussions is going to be drawing attention from everyone else. You know, the channels I like the best are exactly like that. You have educated, interesting people coming in who are debating things in a fashion which is of interest and reward to others, particularly when you're discussing tips and, you know, strategies of certain games. You kind of teach people how to do it and they'll learn it fast. And I'll give you an example. I've not played Destiny before last summer, and it was an experiment. I wanted to play Destiny live with all the other community members, because this is really one of those games which you can literally learn the best through your community, through the engagement with your community. And it was incredible. You know, I actually learned in about 3 or 4 weeks through my community members what otherwise would have taken me several years. And I just raced through 3 different characters, you know. It was astonishing. Destiny is a complex game because you do not have any tutorials anywhere, in-game tutorials that is, and you have to be learning as you go along. So how are you to find where the calcified fragments are? How are you to find dead ghosts around that vast open Destiny universe? You need to have some pointers. And the pointers will come from your community. People who have done them or discovered them will remember that, and they'll be able to tell you. So it's all about, you know, connectivity and communication. And I'm certainly very, very happy with the way things have progressed with my channel, in so much that I find it a bit overwhelming at times. You know, many hours of streaming and a lot of communication, a lot of interest. I guess some demand as well for some content. Frequently people ask me what is the best thing to do variety streams or to just do one single thing. Well, I would say being dedicated to a particular style of gaming is very important, and if you're dedicated to one game which you love the best, and let's say the game which you mastered, and then in addition to that game, which is the base of your channel, you can also have other streams, you know, sometimes a bit in the morning, a bit in the evening, and we have to keep that base solid. The base has to be there. And Kakashi Sensei is here as well. Hello Kakashi Sensei, how are you doing? Thanks very much for coming and for joining us, and thank you for participating in our The Division 2 open beta tonight. It's been a very, very busy, very interesting session so far, I have to say. I'm very grateful for everyone, for everyone's participation. And Kakashi is asking, how long until servers are up? Well, they basically stopped giving us access at 9 o'clock UK time, 10 o'clock European time today. And they will reopen on the 12th of March again. And on the 12th of March, everyone who pre-ordered will be able to access the game. That is what I understand, right? Everyone else who is not pre-ordered will access the game then once you purchase it on the 15th once the game comes out. So principally, we are at the moment still waiting for the game to come out. What we've done during the weekend was open beta testing of The Division 2, which went wonderfully well. So how long until servers are up? Let me think. Today is the 5th, 7 days, right? So that would be what's it, the 5th, 7th, yeah, next week. I think next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. Hang on a minute. 3 days earlier, Tuesday. Yeah. The game comes out on Friday, so 3 days earlier would be on Tuesday. Yeah. And LSJ14 is asking, so the servers are offline? Well, they're not accessible. They're not fully offline. As you could see, I was able to connect to the server to get the display, right? But if you were to press start and try to load, it will tell you that it's not loading the game, not loading the beta. And I'm very grateful to BioWare and Electronic Arts for allowing us to do this, because if, for instance, the beta was completely offline, then I wouldn't be able to do my review. You know the way it works on Twitch. You have got to be accessing the server of a particular game, and then automatically you're being rerouted through that game section on Twitch. If you can't access the server, then it goes astray, and therefore nobody would know that you're doing something. So I'm very grateful to BioWare and not to BioWare. My brain's not working today. I'm very grateful to Massive Entertainment and Electronic Arts for keeping it live, so that I was able to do my review. Mespoiti is here as well. Hello Mespoiti, how are you doing? He's also asking how long until servers are up. Yep, it's going to be about a week. I think on next Tuesday we'll be able to access the servers and play the game if we pre-ordered. And there's several editions of the game. I'll tell you about that in a moment. Let me just have a look at a few other bits here that IGN reported related to our open beta. And let me just see. Just some updates. Oh, we've got some information on post-launch content as well. So, first of all, one update tells us that a new trailer for Division 2 has been released, which is called Enter the Dark Zone. It details the story behind those infamous quarantine zones that will test players through PvP combat, allowing them to obtain rare loot in the process. Check out the trailer below. So you can access the trailer through Ubisoft and the Division 2 channel on YouTube, or you can go to IGN and access the information there as well. It's a very, very good trailer, and I have to say, when I played the open beta during the weekend, I focused entirely on story missions and side quests, and there were quite a few, altogether I think 8. And as I completed all of that, particularly when I completed the last one, which was at the Jefferson Center. Was it the Jefferson Center? No, it was at one. It was at one of the locations. Didn't matter no, which one it was. And once completed, then I unlocked all 4 characters. And once I've unlocked all 4 characters, I was able to enter the Prime section of that open beta. And I'd like to ask you guys, have you done that? Because the Prime section of open beta was the access to the end game, right? And this is what I was very, very interested in. So once accessing one of those 3 characters, the end game was unlocked, and once unlocked, we had quite a bit of cinematics and animation similar to this trailer, which they released a couple of weeks ago. And you really got to know what this Dark Zone was going to be, like, and what it's going to be, containing, and also what type of aura and the atmosphere the Dark Zone will have literally throughout. So it was very, very good. And then once you've done that, you were to be defending, you were to be liberating, I think it was Jefferson Center, from invasion, because the entire setting was invaded by the enemy. And I've done that together with another member from Scotland last night. We played together as a team of 2, and I would have not been able to finish it without additional input. The enemies were extremely difficult, but the good thing was that my teammate was a very experienced player in tactical shooter games, tactical shooters, and we managed to combine our strategies perfectly, and we had a hard struggle right at the end. So let me see other messages that are coming in. I can see that Stute says, I loved everything, but I still need to fix the sound going out. Dimitri says, it's me, the friend request. Stute says, yes, Jefferson Center. And Dimitri says, I have to go now, have a good night, whatever you have. and hope you have a great week. Thank you very much, Dimitris, for coming in. Really appreciate you joining our community, and thank you for your comments and views. Much appreciated. Indeed, I look forward to squadding up with you on the Division 2, or perhaps even on other games. Feel free to text me on my PlayStation app, and then obviously we can discuss things offline as well. And it all has to be obviously video gaming related and in tune with what we do here. So thank you for coming, thank you for joining us, and indeed I wish you also a very, very good day and very good week ahead, and hope you enjoy the Division 2 once it starts next Tuesday if you pre-ordered. Let me see. Stude said that there was a problem with the sound going out. Well, just like I said earlier, the story missions and side quests were glitch free. I had no major glitches in there. But once I entered the endgame content, that was incredibly glitchy, and there was a major problem with the sound. Two of us, myself and the guy who was playing together with me last night, we just simply couldn't hear anything but some muffled sounds. It was almost like watching a silent film. So that was very disconcerting. That wasn't helping our battle either. Once firing, we couldn't hear, obviously, the music, and it was just like literally very, very weird. Obviously, the end game is still in progress. They have not finished it in full. That might have been the reason, but indeed, I'm certain that when it comes to the final game, that will be resolved. It's kind of game in progress. But that was disappointing, and that was of concern. It was interfering with the whole experience of that battle, and it was a major battle, right? And Stude says, yeah, Jefferson Center. It was Jefferson Center that was invaded. It was the commander of the squad doing the invasion. TBN is asking, what level are you on Destiny 2? I completed my on my Warlock, the base game. So the base game has been completed with Warlock. And let me see. Luke himself, I beat the Jefferson Center solo. I died like 7 times now. Hello Luke, how are you doing? Very good to see you. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being a member of our community, the Division 2 community. It was very difficult indeed. I'd just like to ask you guys, if for instance you were, let's say you were doing Jefferson Center by yourself, right? And then you obviously completed the mission after dying a few times and then you've done it later with, let's say, 2 or 3 other community members. So you're doing it in a squad of 4. Was there going to be the difference on the number of enemies attacking you? Or is the number of enemy soldiers going to be the same? Can somebody tell me? Because in my experience, when I was doing that during the weekend, I've not done Jefferson Center alone, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But for the other sections, I've seen when we were 2 or 3 or 4, then we were being attacked in different fashion. Many more soldiers were hitting us. TBNK is asking, what is the other game that you play? Well, I'm an avid gamer and I play lots of different games. I'll give you an example. In the recent times, basically on this channel, I've been streaming Destiny 1 and 2 primarily, because the channel has been pegged to Destiny. But in terms of my recent gaming activities, I've been playing Metro 2033, Metro Last Light. That was in view of the release of the latest Metro Exodus. I played Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. I played Elder Scrolls Online, Destiny 1 and 2, Apex Legends, played quite extensively in the recent months. But otherwise, in last year, we would have had Beyond Two Souls, the adventure game coming from Quantic Dream. Then I played Detroit Becoming Human. I played Heavy Rain. I played some of the golden oldies. There was Grim Fandango and Primal. So, the list goes on and on. In terms of my favorites, my favorite game of all times is Mass Effect Trilogy. And I'm hoping that Anthem, which I tested recently, he's going to be topping it in due course. So, you know, a great fan of RPGs and open world games. That is my kind of turf. I love those games. And I think the Division 2 really falls into that category perfectly. Although it's a tactical shooter, it's still, you know, open world, and you can explore different areas, collect stash and loot and all this. Absolutely brilliant. And Dimitri says, I'm very fond of your Twitch channel, and I will be obviously coming here. Well, thank you so much, Dimitri. So I'm very glad to hear that you like the channel. It is a professional broadcasting channel, which means I'm focused on the industry news, I'm focused on the community activity, and indeed I love playing games together with other community members. So, you know, it's really a combination of all these things together. On a good night, we have a lot of activity here. People come in and communicate, and it's always very focused on a specific game or topic. We've had very busy Anthem review sessions, had 4 of them, and it was very busy. And then we had obviously our regular Destiny 1 and 2 commentary and communication. Very useful for everyone who is just joining the Destiny world, because our veterans know everything, and through, you know, either audio or text communication here, they are giving a perfect tutorial for anyone who wants to join in, for any newbies and rookies, and therefore people can learn rather fast how to infuse weapons, how to get your exotic kit, how to collect certain items which are hidden, how to find locations which are not visible, and most importantly, how to be unlocking those missions which require extra key or some codes, or where do you get the codes from, and, you know, that sort of thing. Absolutely incredible. I've learned everything from them. I would know nothing about Destiny without my community members, and several people who were doing beta tests of Destiny 1 5 years ago, they said that they were, you know, amazed by the number of participants, because and, you know, the thing said, because they themselves were grinding the game for a couple of years before they learned all these things, you know. So it was definitely to my advantage, and obviously to the advantage of everybody else who joined. Such is life when you are playing a game that has already been out for a while. It's a different story if you are just joining on a day one, because everyone's learning then. Let's have a look. Luke says, my weapon sounds with LMGs glitched a lot. Yeah, there was at times some problem with sound. It was very insignificant for me, but it would come and go. It would probably stay for about 30 seconds and then it disappear, and you could still hear the firing. This was happening during the first section, and that was the section on side missions and, you know, story and side missions basically. But I think the end game section was a different ballgame altogether in every way, be it the actual activity or the sound, of, you know, it was glitched throughout, like really badly glitched. And Stud says, same, just stronger. You mean the same game, just stronger? I'm not sure. They didn't quite connect with the comment. I believe it's to do with it's basically comparing the Division 1, Division 2. And Deja Lupa is saying, yeah. And TBNK says, are you playing Rocket League? TBNK, I'm not playing Rocket League. I've not played the game at all. And several people told me that I should have a look at it, but as you know, when you are a broadcaster, your time is precious and it has to be invested wisely. And unfortunately, Rocket League was just one of those games that did not come across my desk. So, you know. And Picklebee says, start game already. Yeah, well, we can't play the Division 2 Pickle Beast. The servers have been disconnected earlier today at 10 o'clock, so, you know, we are waiting for that next Tuesday, and that will carry on. Not carry on, we'll start from scratch, because obviously the full game will start with level 1, and we'll have to be grinding it all the way up to, I think, level 30 or 40 on the base game. And Pickle Beast, there is no hurry. We are not going to be playing any game. This is a review of the sessions which we completed during the weekend, so there will be no game tonight. We can't be doing it because obviously we have no access to the server. And Dimitris is grateful. He sent us some cheers. Well, thank you, Dimitris. By using cheers and by using bits, you are supporting the entire online community of Twitch streamers and entrepreneurs. I'm very grateful for that. As you know, the revenue which is generated with bits and cheers is shared with everyone. We share it with Twitch as obviously our supporter and the provider, and then with other streamers as well. So anyone who's using cheers and bits is automatically helping us in the best possible way. So please do use them, and do remember they're not going to be a benefit just to DRBMiller channel, but to everybody else who is present on Twitch as a streamer. And Dimitri says to Pickle Beast, the servers are not switched on, and Pickle Beast says, I think they are. Pickle Beast, the servers have been switched off at 9 o'clock AM UK time, 10 o'clock AM European time. They're not going to be switched on. There's no gaming on the Division 2 until next Tuesday, and that's going to be then accessible to people who pre-ordered. So if you pre-order the game on Tuesday of next week, you'll be able to access the game. If you're still considering it, then after you purchase the game on its release date on the 15th, you'll be able to access it. And Pickleby says, sorry. No, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. I mean, people don't know, you know, people could expect that the servers are up and running and they're actually not. And Stute says, the number of people you fight on Division 2 are the same. Stutes, does that mean that regardless of the fact whether you are playing as a squad of 4 or just a single player, you're still going to be fighting the same number of enemies in those certain situations, right? I'm not sure. I'm personally not sure. I thought that as I went to certain missions and certain there were missions, there were incursions, you know, when we were sort of walking the streets. I thought when we did it with a squad of 3, we were attacked by a few more soldiers than otherwise. That was my experience, or my assumption. So just let me know if I'm mistaken. Let's have a look. Oliver Thorpe says that that's not the case, and Stute says just stronger. Oh, I see. There will be the same enemies, but they will be harder to kill. I get it. So it won't be greater number of enemies. It'll be their difficulty level, or you know, their strength would have been increased. Therefore, yeah, I got it. That's possible. That's possible. But you know, to tell you the truth, the end game, which I've done last night with another community member, was difficult, and there were 2 of us, and I thought some of the enemies were very, very hard to kill, particularly those yellow and kind of mauve/pink bar enemies. They were really difficult to kill, and you had to be very fast and tactical to know what to do with them. And Dimitri saying goodbye to everyone. Well, thanks very much for coming, Dimitri, and we look forward to seeing you again on another night, and thank you very much for providing us with your valuable comments and views. And Pickleby says play Rainbow Six, please. And we are going to be playing Rainbow Six once the game is on schedule. Presently, Rainbow Six is not on Annual, but I can certainly tell you that I have been streaming it in the past, and I've had some people coming and watching, but that was a part of their promotional offer when they were introducing additional content and offering the access to the game for free. So in order to, you know, help the Rainbow Six community, I've done some streams during those weekends. It was similar to beta. It's a little while back. At the moment we are streaming, this is for Pickle Beast. At the moment we are streaming the following games. We have Destiny 1, we have Destiny 2, we have Apex Legends, and then we are going to be doing the Division 1 as well, and that will be done from tomorrow, because I want to be complementing the game release on the 15th with other people getting to know about the previous game and, you know, having a look. That's the idea. Once the game is out, we will be streaming the Division 2 as well. I absolutely loved it. It's not possible for me not to do it. And Pickle Beast, I just want to tell you that the big game that we are going to be streaming here next is Anthem. The streams might start either within the next 2 weeks, without giving a specific date. It'll be well advertised, because I was running the Anthem donor campaign, which was supported, and that was wonderful. So very, very grateful to everyone who supported the purchase of Anthem and, you know, its broadcast. And we had delayed Anthem streams for one simple reason alone. Presently, Anthem is very badly affected by technical problems. It's very glitched, and we've had some reports today emerging that the latest update was affecting PS4 consoles. So people had not just crashes, but some people said that the console afterwards didn't work at all. They're not verified by the industry. These may be just rumors, but I mean, the comments indicating that basically the update would have destroyed the console, right? So that's not verified by the industry. But I do know from doing the demos, VIP and open demos of Anthem, that we had serious problems where the game had to be continuously rebooted and restarted, right? So you were literally restarting a console, and that's a non-starter for anybody who does broadcasting, because you have to be ending a broadcast, restarting it, losing all the viewers, and basically booting everyone out, you know. And during the weekend of Anthem, I think I had around 40 or 50 different streams, which meant I had to be constantly at some stages you know, restarting the game, and that's a non-starter. So I'm waiting for that to be fully resolved, then we'll commence with Anthem in full, and that's going to be every day. And Pickle Beast is asking, I have the Anthem demo. Yep, that's right. I've had also, well, I still have it on my console, but regrettably, as they discontinued, we simply can't access anything, you know, on that demo. But that demo, I have to say, despite of all the technical glitches and problems, was probably one of the biggest beta tests I've ever done. It was incredibly big. We've had that open world with, you know, different missions in it. You could play them on 3 or 4 difficulty levels. And I'm not sure whether you were playing it during the weekend, but if you were doing it on Sunday, or the open demo, Anthem demo that is, and if you were entering the free play, you know, the roaming through the open world on the hard difficulty level, then you were given that bonus content, similar to what they gave us yesterday with Endgame in the Division 2. The bonus content was lots of different events where you were meeting different types of beasts, and I played it together with a crew, and we basically completed all of those events. And the most difficult one, or the most exciting one, was the event with what was it called? Ancient Ash Titan. Have you done that one? Ancient Ash Titan. There was this massive big beast, and he was able to cause earthquakes and fireballs and all kinds of disasters, and you had to be evading and then hitting him and, you know, attacking tactically. My squad mates were both Destiny 1 and 2 veterans and, you know, hardcore Destiny gamers, so they knew what tactics to use and how to deploy sort of strategic positioning, and that was the only reason that we were able to complete that event. My character was really hampered by so-called rubber banding, and rubber banding was literally hampering my effort in that mission. But if you want to have a look, you can go to my Twitter, and I do have on my Twitter clips from that particular event when we destroyed the Ash Titan. So the videos of that event are on my Twitter. You can have a look if you were not there, if you're wondering what this looked like, right? And Pickle Beast is saying, but the servers are closed even on weekends, correct? Yeah. You mean, Pickle Beast, do you mean the servers for Anthem or for the Division 2? because with Anthem it was very strict. You know, they started on Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. UK time, and the cutoff point was 2 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, basically Sunday to Monday morning, you know. And then once they switched the servers off, there was no access whatsoever. Basically, the way to do it at the moment is demos as provided by BioWare for Anthem, and also this one for The Division 2 by Ubisoft, right? These are not really demos. These are beta tests, you know. Anthem, they called it demo, VIP demo, but actually it was a beta test. It was a massive beta test, because we've had something like 10 hours of gameplay in it. So that's really very considerable. And they made it very, very strict on timing. You know, the demos which we can access on PlayStation or elsewhere on other platforms, you download them for free, you play them. That's not quite the same thing. These ones contain information and activities which are not always going to be included in the final game. You know what I mean? It's like work in progress, and therefore they're being just open for a certain number of hours and then closed. That's the idea, basically, you know. The ordinary demos are no fun. I mean, I don't like ordinary demos for one reason alone. They are providing you with spoilers. You know, when you enter a massive game like The Division 2 or Anthem, you want to be learning as you go along. You don't want people to tell you or introduce you to something in advance. You want to have the enjoyment of walking through it. In fact, I talked to several of my community members during the last few weeks, and I asked them, did you watch, you know, Anthem broadcast? Did you watch beta tests? And they said, no, we didn't do so because we do not want to have any spoilers. We want to really enjoy the game, you know, on its release date, and we'll start from the beginning. We do not want to know anything about it prior to that. And I think this is a very, very good approach. This is what I do when I go to cinema. For some of you who are familiar with this, I run other hubs on the internet and channels which are dedicated to the film industry, and I absolutely detest the number of spoilers which are being fermented many weeks before, you know, any of the major films releases, because they're all based on pre-release reviews, and they're generally completely you know, wrong and misleading, and therefore when you read it you may, you know, become biased towards a certain film, and it's just completely wrong. And that is happening in the gaming community as well, as I speak. So I have a problem with that. And Pickleby is asking, when do the Division 2 servers go up again? Formally, for everyone who is going to be buying the game on the release date, that will be on the 15th of March, right? So for anyone who had not pre-ordered, 15th of March is going to be the day. And for all of those people who pre-ordered, it is going to be 3 days earlier. It's automatic, right? And Pickle Beast is saying, yeah, he was asking about Anthem. No, Anthem demo is gone, and you can simply, you know, keep it on your PlayStation 4 library account, but otherwise you will not be able to do anything with it. And you probably would have seen that we've had a similar sort of situation with Resident Evil 2 Remake, and they said it was a one-shot demo, and I didn't really quite realize what that one-shot demo meant. And what they basically wanted to do was for you to have just one gameplay. You know, you had to finish the demo in 30 minutes, and if you did not finish in 30 minutes, that was then kind of self-destruct, you know. You just wouldn't be able to access it anymore. And because I was streaming that demo, I literally played it as if I was doing Elder Scrolls RPG, exploring every single corner, looking around, and, you know, that sort of thing. And therefore I didn't really do anything. And then after 30 minutes, the demo told me, you failed to complete the mission, and if you want to complete it, just, you know, come back and once you purchase the game, and, you know. So even in this instance, I've got it on my PlayStation 4. Whenever I access it, I get the message saying, well, it was just a one-shot demo. And then you get trailers and all the introductions to the game. It's a new strategy that, you know, the developers are testing. As you can see, it's a strategy which is evolving, and it's providing us with lots of different ideas. They want principally very similar to what you have in the music industry and also, you know, films, for people to be coerced into pre-ordering. And the reason for pre-ordering is purely based on finance. By that, I don't mean finance that you're paying this company in advance for the game. It's based on the interest which is generated, and that interest is verifiable, right? So let's say you want to go to Glastonbury Festival. They'll be able to present everyone, the investors, with a figure after the first week of sales, of, you know, first week of what do you call it, advance sales, because they sell tickets 1 year in advance, and they can say, we sold 250,000 tickets in 1 week, and this is the interest we've got already 1 year before the event actually takes place. So with the gaming industry is very similar. They're focused on pre-orders, right? So pre-release orders are giving, depending on what interest is generated, they can present the figures to the investors, you know, people who invest shares in those companies. And therefore it is extremely important for them to have as many people pre-ordering as possible, because if they see that, let's say, the expected number is, for instance, 500,000 and 100,000 people pre-ordered, they have to explain that to their investors. You see what I mean? It's all about planning well in advance, and these games cost a lot of money and they take a lot of time and effort to produce. So it's very disappointing and in fact very painful to see that you know, games like Anthem, which were 6-7 years in making, then suffered so badly. But they actually waited with Anthem for a few years. They really wanted to release the game and they already thought about it after Mass Effect 2, but they considered the state of the technology, you know, 10 years ago, and they said, what we want to do at the moment is a bit too overwhelming for the technology that we currently have. So as the engines develop, we are going to be able to release the game maybe 6-7 years later. But it does appear to be that what they crammed into the game is still a bit, you know, ahead of its time, and therefore there are so many problems. I think Anthem is having more technical problems than any other game in the gaming history, or particularly if you're looking at AAA blockbusters, and that is astonishing. I mean, you know, I played it for 2 weekends in a row, and I had a real headache on the technical front after those 2 weekends. Whilst doing the Division 2, there was a glitch on endgame, but everything else worked perfectly, you know? So Stuart says they are to fix the bugs before the game drops. Yes, Stuart, yeah, that's right. They are going to be fixing this, and I think it's just a minor glitch. If you played the end game, you would have seen that we didn't have any rubber banding. We didn't have any major problems with you know, character mobility. The firefights were good. The hit registration was in order. It was just to do with the sound, and compared to the problems that some of the other games, which I earlier described, experienced, this was just nothing. It's completely insignificant. It's just probably just one update, which then will be resolving the problem, you know? It wasn't major. The game seemed to have been well polished altogether by now. Yes, Dudes96 says it's on beta. Beta is always a test, so, you know, I think it was a major mistake for Anthem guys not to call their VIP demo beta. And I just explained a moment ago as to why that is. They wanted to present that as the item of the final product. You know that a lot of people, when they hear with beta, they assume this is still work in progress, this is glitchy, and many people have huge aversion towards glitches, right? So they didn't want to do that with Anthem. They wanted to say this is your demo, and it really backfired on the first weekend when we were doing that VIP demo, because VIP demo was for everyone who pre-ordered, and people actually paid revenue, $80, pre-ordering that Legion of Dawn edition in order to access that VIP demo. And then on the day, which was on that Friday, everything went wrong. It was dreadful on the technical front, that is, but the actual gameplay when it worked was astonishing. It was really probably some of the most beautiful gameplay I've ever played. So we have to make this distinction. But I think from the consumer's point of view, if you're charging $80 for that game and you are giving that VIP access only to those people, it's a condition, right? For those people who would have pre-ordered it, and then they're paid to get that VIP access, which means very early access before everyone else, and then you are having problems so you can't even log in. Well, that is just, from the consumer's point of view, unacceptable. And that's obviously the responsibility that both the developer and the publisher will have to hold. That's just the way it is. Picklebee says, I've got to go, so have a good day. Well, thank you very much, Picklebees, for coming and for joining. Thank you all for all of your contributions and for your comments and views. Much appreciated. Do feel always welcome here. Come back and join our community. We have very busy streams sometimes, depending on games and depending on the type of activity. Overall, we have many Destiny veterans as part of our club, and they also play other games as well. So lots of interesting discussions focused on high quality content and enjoyable and highly entertaining gameplay, of course. And frequently my community members join me in the gameplay, which is another thing that a lot of people like. You get streamers that are focused just on the solo effort, or they play always with the same team. This channel is all about connectivity and communication. Sometimes I can't allow people to come in immediately because we are maybe doing a story mission which needs to be kind of run through for the first time and all this, but we work it out. We always communicate. I bring people in on my party chat, and sometimes people who are actually not playing the game are active contributors. They basically are commentators on the activity. So always interesting. So thank you for coming, and hope to see you again, and thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Phantom Morian 539 saying hello. Hello, Phantom. I can just call you Phantom, easier for me to pronounce. How are you doing? Thanks very much for joining us. We are doing our The Division 2 open beta review, so thank you for being a member of our community. Thank you for joining this channel. Thank you for being here. As you can see, we've had lots of interesting comments and views already on The Division 2 and on Anthem and some other games. And I was talking early on, but I obviously engaged with our community members. Just bear with me, I'm getting a bit of a sore throat. Phantom Morin is asking, is the beta still up? Regrettably, the beta is no longer with us, and the cutoff point was 9 AM UK time today and 10 o'clock AM European time today, and no longer can we access the server and play the game. So unfortunately we are now to wait until next Tuesday, when everybody who pre-ordered this wonderful new tactical shooter from Ubisoft will be able to access the game 3 days in advance. So remember, if you like the beta, if you want to really do it as soon as, buy the game. And you can purchase it through all the online retailers. Pre-order, you'll get lots of goodies in there, which are applicable just to those who are pre-ordering. And you have plenty of choice. I think it's about 3 or 4 different editions. In fact, we'll look into that in a moment. But I just want to still have a look at a few bits of news which have come, to my attention since yesterday. And one of those is about post-launch content on The Division 2. So we have some information from Ubisoft that they will be doing their year 1 pass on the game as well. So the free post-launch content will include new episodes, additional narratives and missions, new PvP and PvE modes, and new specializations that each include a new signature weapon and skill tree to unlock. Tidal Basin, which is coming shortly after launch, will reveal a new challenging stronghold held by the Black Tusks. Then Operation Dark Hours is also coming soon after the launch. Will be an 8-player raid, a franchise first for the Division. So listen to this, we are going to have our first raid in the Division 2, and that's going to be called Operation Dark Hours. It is not going to be accessible on the day of its release, but within the first 3 weeks. So we have some indication here, if you guys are interested, on what these expansions are going to be called, right? So we'll have several in here named, but Bomin is in here as well. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for joining our broadcast. Thank you for being here for our review for the Division 2 Open Beta. Thank you for being a member of our community. And Bomin is asking, beta is out until the 15th. Beta is out completely, so there's going to be no more access to this open beta. Not until the 15th. It's gone. We are not going to be able to access the content anymore. Regrettably so, you know. We are going to be able to access. We are going to be able to access the full game if you pre-ordered from next Tuesday. If you are considering buying it, then from next Friday, which is its official release date. So that will be either on Tuesday if you pre-ordered, or on Friday if you are just a regular gamer who will still buy it. Boymean says thank you. No worries at all, sir. Thank you for being here with us, and this is a forum where such questions have to be asked because people want to learn. And one of the questions which I received earlier today, before I started my broadcast, was what's going to be happening with the annual pass? Is there going to be any DLC? Is the DLC going to be for free, or do we have to pay for it? What's going to be included in that DLC? You know, lots of questions related to this, because you know, you will remember, if you are an avid The Division 1 follower and gamer, that many people complained after the game was released about the initial content, or you know, a lack of it, and people very unhappy with what they were receiving during the first year on the annual pass. So later they beefed up the content, but initially it was very, very slim, and there were many things that people were unhappy with. So evidently there were many questions raised about The Division 2 and whether the entire release is going to be very similar. I think from what I could see so far, it is absolutely not going to be similar. We are facing a completely different game, although similar in its shape and structure, very different in terms of its content. So there are 3 episodes which have been declared, and obviously they already have been produced. This is your DLC content that will come in after the game has been released. And just having a look, Boymin saying that he already bought the game. Well, so you're one of those people who is one of the, you know, kind of founder members, and thank you for pre-ordering it. It's going to be obviously very beneficial for you. You'll be able to get some extra goodies as a person who indeed was amongst the first few who bought it, and therefore you'll be able to access the game from Tuesday. You just have to look. I'll read out the information, so just bear with me. I don't want to really provide you with incorrect times and dates, because I've digested the information, and they did say that everyone who pre-ordered will be able to access 3 days in advance, but to see exactly at what time. Because, you know, when somebody's very eager, a bit like people queuing up before midnight in the old days to get the new game, people really want to know exactly when we are going to be able to access it. But then on the other hand, you needn't be too worried, because if you pre-ordered, you're already on the automated system of the publisher, and they will send you an email saying you can access the game literally from now. They'll send you, I think, a word of warning in advance, and then once it's open, then you get an email saying you can just jump in. I always get those. Lost Bright is in here as well. Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. Thank you for being here with us for our review of the Division 2 Open Beta. Thank you for joining our community. So let me just read out the DLC content. The DLC content will be released after the game already would have been out, the base game, and the first episode is called DC Outskirts, right? Expeditions. Oh, it's called Outskirts Expeditions, so it's DC Outskirts Expeditions. It's coming in summer of 2019, and it will be based in the surrounding areas of Washington, in 2 additional main missions and a new game mode that investigates the fate of a lost convoy. So the first episode is going to be DC Outskirts Expeditions, and as we've heard, it will be coming out in summer of 2019. So it's going to be a completely different story mission, which is going to split into 2s, and the new game mode as well, which will investigate the fate of the lost convoy. The second one is called Pentagon: The Last Castle. That episode is coming out in fall or autumn of 2019, and we'll have new main missions involving players storming the Pentagon to unveil hidden secrets. So that's another episode, right? So quite curious to see, because it says that the episode 1 will have 2 main missions and the episode 2 perhaps the same, but it's not clearly specified. Episode 3 will be released in winter 2019, allegedly closing the first chapter of the Division 2 story. So as you could see, all 3 episodes are story-based missions, and they will be complementing everything we witness in the course of the gameplay throughout the base game. Right? So the next thing is the Year 1 Pass. So it's the annual pass, which comes with the Gold and Digital Ultimate Editions. So if you are purchasing Gold and Digital Ultimate Edition, I just want to ask Boimin, have you bought the base game, or indeed perhaps one of those, Gold or Digital Ultimate Edition? I'd be quite curious to hear, just for my own reference. Because with Gold and Digital Ultimate Editions, you are going to be able to get the annual pass. You know, it's included, and that's very beneficial. This includes 7-day early access to all Year 1 episodes, instant access to all Year 1 specializations as they're released, 8 classified assignments that reveal more about the fall of Washington DC, and exclusive cosmetics, base of operations projects, and bounties. So as you could see, anybody buying Gold and Digital Ultimate Editions will be in a privileged position. First of all, they'll get the annual pass a lot cheaper than otherwise, and then they'll get 7-day early access to the game as well, and 7-day early access to those episodes, right? So that is basically even better to what everyone else is going to be getting next week, because in this instance we are talking about 3 days, and then obviously for the episodes of Outskirts Expeditions, The Last Castle, and the last one, you are going to be able then to access it 7 days in advance, which is very, very rewarding. More messages coming in. Boimin says, I bought standard $59.99. No worries. It's just, I know I discussed that with Matthias, our community member from the US, the other day, and a few other of my US friends as well. You know, they all feel that purchasing top tier editions is cheaper in the longer run, because like for instance with the digital deluxe edition of Destiny 2 Forsaken, or this one, which would be the digital ultimate edition of the Division 2, you will have then that additional not content but the annual pass included, and therefore considerably cheaper. I think the annual pass costs like $40 or $50 just by itself, and that's, you know, that's pretty good as well. Let me just have a look what else is there. Lost Blight has asked, can you play beta now? No, unfortunately not. The beta has ended earlier today and it is no longer to be continued. So indeed it is finished, and when we resume next week we are going to be able to access the full game. The beta is no longer accessible, full stop. Yeah. So other people also did comment on that. Thank you guys for obviously providing our community member with the answer. I was just responding to the other comments which would have come in. And TBF God is here. He says you can't play beta anymore. He just has the application on so he can get the views. That's correct, yeah. And thank you so much for clarifying. I'm very grateful to Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft to have kept the access to this, because I've had a problem with Anthem once we've had the second week of reviews which were advertised. They basically took it off completely, you know, it was just completely switched off. So I advertised my reviews for the following week, and then I couldn't really get it back on. Because otherwise, if you do a separate stream, it will not go through the relevant channel. And that obviously is a problem, because you want the gamers that are following that game to be engaging, otherwise it's just shot in the dark. That's the reason as to why I'm having it up and running. Because it's a review, you know, we watched all the niceties during the weekend, and thanks very much TBF God for clarifying that for our community members. So as you could see, we are very eager then to see that DLC, which is going to be delivered with 3 episodes. Episode 1, DC Outskirts Expeditions, that'll be coming our way in 2019. Will be based in the surrounding areas of Washington, in 2 additional main missions and a new game mode that investigates the fate of a lost convoy. So the first thing we'll get is, but to be honest with you, considering how Destiny 2 Forsaken is operating this season at the moment, some people may feel that just having 1 episode in 3 months would be a bit slim. But there may be other things thrown in together with the episode, we'll have to see, you know. The episode 2 is going to be Pentagon: The Last Castle, coming out in the autumn of 2019. Another 2 missions involving players storming the Pentagon to unveil hidden secrets. Episode 3, Winter 2019, closing the first chapter of the Division 2 story. So let's see. Darren Live is here asking, is the beta open? Unfortunately not, the beta is closed and we can no longer access the beta. We'll be able to access the game from next week if you pre-ordered on Tuesday. If you haven't, then on Friday. And Bomin says 1 year subscribe for Gold Edition. I believe that Gold and Digital Ultimate Editions do include the annual season. So if you purchase either of those 2, you will have then annual pass included. Yeah, that's right. Boeing just provides other comment which says pre-order it, or you can access it on the 15th. Right. Okay, so we've seen some interesting news on the DLC. And I'm quite curious to see something else, which is IGN's comparison of Anthem and The Division. So I'll really focus on that in a moment. But coming back to what I said already, I'm just looking at the information related to the beta and everything we completed. You would have seen a very nice poster which has been released by Ubisoft, and I have to say it was very, very easy to use. It looked very similar in concept to the one released for Anthem, and you had a spread of 3 main missions: open world, dark zone and conflict, endgame, and then it told you what you could do in there, right? And skirmish 4 against 4 PvP mode, that is what I did not do, right? Boymin says mean season pass. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, those 2 top tier editions, they have the annual pass, the season pass, you know, and then you get the DLC free of charge, all included. That's the idea. That's the way I understand it. And I think they'll be pressurized to release some additional content. This may not be episodes, but maybe some skins, or, you know, maybe something which you can be chasing or collecting, because Bungie were under a lot of pressure after their first year on Destiny 2, you know. People were very, very unhappy with the seasons. So people wanted definitely more content, and Bungie delivered. Presently the seasons are full of everything, in fact maybe even oversaturated. Some of my Destiny community members have complained that leveling up has been made very difficult, and certain sections were really a long grind. But you know, some gamers like that. Some people are then annoyed that it's too difficult, or it takes, you know, too long time. Depends on preference. I think the best way of resolving this is purely by allowing various difficulty levels. So, you know, Coming back to the beta, what I didn't do, I thought I've done everything, but I discovered now after looking at this, skirmish 4 against 4 PvP mode in the Dark Zone, I've not done that. So that I've not entertained, and well, if anybody else did it, just tell me what it was like. But then on the other hand, open world 5 side missions and control points and activities, I've completed all of that. 3 main missions from private beta and 1 new exclusive mission. The new exclusive mission was the end game. I've completed all of that. And then the Dark Zone East, everything in there completed. But a PvP mode, 3 specializations, and the end game 1 invaded mission, all of that has been completed. This is very, very good. Right. So I want to look at that comparison, which I mentioned early on. So just bear with me a second. I'll access this information. We'll have a look at that, because I guess many of you are also quite keen on Anthem. Yeah, it says how the Division 2 can capitalize on the shortcomings of Anthem. So we'll have a look at that. But coming back to your messages, let me have a look. Yeah, Boymins was asking about the season pass. That's right, just bear with us. In fact, I can access it here on my system straight away. Please bear with me, I need to get it up and running, and I'll be able to tell you on PS App. But the messages here, Riding Low says Destiny 2 release was trash. Well, I wouldn't really agree with you. You know, it's down to the player preference. I think a lot of people complained about the base game, and they felt that perhaps it was a bit slim, a bit short, and they wanted more content. So once the Destiny 2 Forsaken came out, it was obviously providing it, and then in addition to that we had the annual pass seasons that they've introduced, and they have lots of content. The trouble with Destiny 2 from the beginning was that they used a different concept, which was diverting from the original, and that was not popular, right? So that is what people did not like. People like where you have the system like here in the Division 2, which is identical, just enhanced. So you know exactly what you're doing. You know, in Destiny 2, when you come in, the entire layout of everything is just completely different, right? So you have problem with the director, you know, where you got the map of the stars, it's completely different in Destiny 2. And then when you're accessing certain rewards and certain achievements, completely different. No reason for that whatsoever. On the other hand, I quite liked in Destiny 2 the RPG element. A lot of people complained that Destiny 1 lacked cinematics, lacked RPG content, and therefore they brought in quite a bit of that in Destiny 2. There was a lot more dialogue and, you know, many more cinematics, sort of cutscenes in it. But then that was also received as quite negative by some, you know, some of the gamers who were quite keen on FPS. So what can I tell you? Different people like different things. And Bomin says, I heard Destiny 1 was bad. Well, no, I would disagree with that. Destiny 1 release was marred by technical problems. The content of the game was phenomenal, but they did have some technical problems which took a while to resolve. So if you were looking up on Google and, you know, you came across some reviews which were released at the time of its release, then they were focused on technical problems, and many of those were there at the beginning. Eventually they were all resolved. And in fact, after they released the Taken King DLC, then the story missions changed and some of the content in the game changed altogether. So at the end of the day, it became a different game. And just would like to invite you, basically, if you're interested in Destiny, if you like the game, or if you would want to play it, you can wait until PlayStation Store is offering some significant discounts, and then you can buy either the Taken King Legendary, or I would advise you, my personal preference is Destiny the Collection. Destiny Collection contains everything which is in Destiny, and that's all DLC content and everything, and you can probably get it for less than £10, right? So that's less than maybe $11. And once you purchase it, you can access everything online, squad up with other guys. You have no technical problems whatsoever. The only thing that still remained was that loading screens in some sections of the game are not as fast as you would expect them to be, but overall, no glitches whatsoever. Right? So it all works perfectly. So the bad reviews on Destiny 1 were related to technical problems, not to the game content. And Riding Low says DZ was awesome and intense. I agree. It was definitely very intense and very interesting, and provided us with a challenge. And I'm certain when we, get in with the full game, we are going to be having a lot more fun. And at that point, we'd be able to spot the difference as well. So the difference is going to be much greater to what we've seen in beta, because I think the DZ is basically there for people to explore and also to play PvP missions. I've just seen that on the slide. They have PvP missions in DZ, so DZ I should say, but Bomin says, I think if people play Defiance game, will know how to play. And Riding Low says, I love Destiny and I was a Destiny 1 player from day one. Riding Low, I guess you are one of the Destiny 1 veterans, and indeed you perhaps are one of those people who was having concerns about the change of direction. When you basically place your Destiny 2 game in the drive, or if you downloaded it, you start playing it. As soon as the game starts running, you realize, hang on a minute, this doesn't look like Destiny. It feels completely different. That's where the problem was. I mean, I've done Destiny 1 and 2 at the same time. I had one stream Destiny 1 in the morning and another Destiny 2 in the evening. So I was able to kind of juggle and engage, and I had my very big community of, Destiny veterans there to help out. But I could see the difference. On the other hand, I like RPGs, so I quite like the RPG element in Destiny 2. I've not done Destiny 2 Forsaken yet, or the annual seasons as yet. I'll progress to that level once I completed everything in Destiny 1. I have 3 characters in Destiny 1, Warlock, Hunter and Titan, and I completed everything on Warlock and Hunter but the raids, and I still have a number of story missions to complete on my Titan. So once I've done all the story missions and all the strikes and everything on these characters, I'll leave it just for the raids, for all 3 of them, and then we'll migrate to Destiny 2. We'll focus on Destiny 2 altogether, And Boymin says, thanks very much for the information. I can't really decipher the last bit. Good night on Destiny, right? That would be my reading of it, but I might be mistaken, so you have to decipher it for me, sir. EJP 1022, hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining our review. Thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. And EJP is asking, is the beta over? Unfortunately and regrettably, beta is fully over. Beta will not be continued, and the servers have been switched off for accessing beta earlier today, 10 o'clock in the morning European time, 9 o'clock AM British time. So no more beta. We are no longer able to access it, and that's all done and dusted. If you want to access the game, EJP, then there are 2 ways about it. One is to pre-order, then you'll access the game on next Tuesday. And if you are waiting for its release date, then obviously purchasing on that date and accessing as everyone else will be on Friday. That's Friday of next week. So let me have a look at the additions of the Division 2 open beta. There were some questions coming in earlier, and people asking, what benefits anyone's going to be getting as they obviously access those games. So we'll have a look and tell you exactly. So just bear with us. I'm just accessing all the information that I have here on that. Just bear with us, it'll take us a moment. And EJP 1022 is asking, is the game worth buying? Well, first of all, I'll open it to my community members to tell you. Everyone who's watching the broadcast, everyone who's out there, perhaps you can tell EJP whether you consider that, and then in a moment I'll tell you what I think, because I spent the whole weekend doing the Division 2 open beta and I had a wonderful time, so I'll tell you what I think. Let me just get some information on those special editions. I quite like the fact that they're spread out, you know, we have like several, and that's awesome. So really, we have standard edition of the Division 2, then we have the Ultimate edition of the Division 2, and we have the Gold edition. Right? So these are the three editions currently available. So we will first of all look at the standard edition. Right? So the standard edition can be bought on the day, on the 15th, or you can pre-order. So if you pre-order, you will get some goodies, and people asking me early on, what are the goodies which you will get on the standard game if you pre-order? So there's the answer. You will get the Capital Defender pack, right? So that is exclusive to everyone who pre-orders the Division 2 before its release. So what's the Capital Defender pack? Well, you'll get the exotic SPAS 12 shotgun, and you will get another Hazmat 2.0 outfit. For anyone who was using shotguns, I can tell you that some of them are very, very effective. So getting this at the beginning will be of advantage when it comes to leveling up, because that weapon in there will be very effective for CQBs, in other words, close quarter battles, and you will benefit. So principally, that is the biggest benefit. You get the base game and you get your Capital Defender pack, right? So let's have a look at the next special edition. Which is Gold Edition. £99, right? So if you upgrade your game experience with the Gold Edition, which includes the Year 1 pass, and get up to 3 days early access to the game. So Gold Edition is going to be giving you 3 days early access, which is going to be on next Tuesday, and Gold Edition will have also the annual pass included. So all the DLC as released during the following year will be coming your way for free. So pre-order now, and then you can get access to number 1, private beta. Well, that's already gone. So if you order today, you're not going to get private beta. Private beta was done a couple of weeks ago, and we had completed the open beta today. So that's no longer active. And you will get also the Capital Defender pack, which is identical to Gold. Right? So as you could see, the difference between the Gold and the Ultimate is in the inclusion of No, I beg your pardon. The difference between the base game and the gold is with the inclusion of the annual pass, right? So you'll get the annual pass included in that price. Therefore, you'll come probably 20, 30 pounds cheaper to what otherwise you'd have to pay if you were purchasing it separately. So to clarify, with your gold edition of Tom Clancy's Division 2, you are getting your annual pass and you're getting the Defender pack. Because we already had betas up in the air, they are no longer active and therefore you will not be able to access betas. So please do not think if you're purchasing it today after watching my review that you'll get your separate access to beta. You will not. Beta had expired, so that's no longer valid. Right? Okay, so the last one we got is the Ultimate Edition. So let's see what the Ultimate Edition is going to give us. The Ultimate Edition comes at the price of £92.99, so that's quite hefty, considering that the vast majority of games cost about £45, so it's doubling up the price, right? And what do we get with it? Well, there's quite a lot. Ultimate Edition includes additional digital content, the Year 1 Pass, and up to 3 days early access to the game. So what's the Ultimate Edition's digital content? Number 1, the Elite Agent Pack. And the Elite Agent Pack includes an exotic assault rifle, an exclusive skill effect, additional stash space, right? So listen to this. Digital content and extra are the Elite Agent Pack, and that includes an exotic assault rifle, an exclusive skill effect, and the additional stash space. Stash space is very important because you will be sometimes collecting extra bits of kit and gear which need to go somewhere, right? And sometimes you will want to be having kit which is of top quality, so remember that. Sometimes you'll be able to sell some of that kit as well. You'll get money, and then for that money you'll be buying something else, so very important. So in addition to the Elite Agent Pack, you'll be getting the Battle-Worn Secret Service Pack. So that's another service pack, right? And that will include Battle-Worn Secret Service Outfit, Secret Service Emote, and Secret Service Weapon Skin. Just 3 different bits. Battle-Worn Secret Service Outfit, Secret Service Emote, and Secret Service Weapon Skin. So if that wasn't good enough, with the Ultimate Edition, you will also get a 3rd pack, which is called the First Responder Pack, and that includes the First Responder Outfit and the First Responder Weapon Skin. So they kind of, that's more of a cosmetic thingy. But the main one is the Elite Agent Pack, which has the exclusive rifle, and then skill effect and stash space. That's very important because that's affecting your gameplay. Generally, the stuff you get with these packs is kind of insignificant. It's more of, of a cosmetic nature. Beautiful images, beautiful clothing, and that sort of thing. But when you get something which is enhancing your ability to play the game, well, that's definitely worthwhile. Because don't forget, sometimes games can be a long grind without certain kit. Like when I played Destiny 1, for the first time on my first character, I had no weapons or anything. It was a long grind, and I had to obviously learn a lot. I had to build my knowledge and skill, collect weapons, level up, and all of that. It did take a long while. Compared to the 3rd character, Titan, in Destiny, I've had a perk which right at the beginning, when I started it, leveled me up from 1 to 40. So instantly, from the word go, I was able to use all the weapons which I had in my stash, most of which were exotic and legendary, meaning the top quality, and therefore I leveled up and increased my power immediately, even before I played the game. And therefore, playing the game with my Titan has been plain sailing. I was able to neutralize all the enemies, even if I did it just by myself, and just the entire experience of the game was completely different, and that's great, You grind when you're in a first character, you sail when you're on your third character. That's the way it should be. Bear with me, there is some more stuff in here. Right, so you got 1, 2, 3. You got 3 separate packs, which are service packs, right? And then in addition to that, you're getting your annual pass, which is your year 1 pass. So all of that is a part and parcel of your Tom Clancy's Division 2 Ultimate Edition. So we've gone through all 3, we know exactly what they are, and indeed that is exactly what we wanted to pronounce. So for all of our gamers, community members and friends to know exactly what they'll be getting. EJP was asking me earlier, is the game worth buying? I could see some other community members responded, but I'll tell you, EJP, my verdict is absolutely. Absolutely. I personally was astonished by the quality of everything I've seen. There were a few glitches on the end game, but that's just ignorable compared to everything else. I was absolutely astonished by the atmosphere, the beauty of the visuals, meticulousness of graphic design and research. In fact, one of our community members who played with me over the weekend said he knew DC very well and the exact locations, and you know, everything he saw in the game looked really incredible. So very close to what he would have seen in real life, but not with that Armageddon in place, of course. So I guess for anyone who lives in DC, it's a bit chilling to watch, you know. But coming back to the point, everything I've seen, from story missions to side quests, open play, Dark Zone, everything was the tops. I loved it, you know, and just absolutely and thoroughly most enjoyable tactical shooter I would have played in a long while. So I would say absolutely yes. If you were to ask me what edition I would recommend, and we were just discussing standard edition, gold edition and the ultimate edition, right? I would most highly recommend you the ultimate edition. It is true it will cost you double, but you will get the annual pass. The annual pass is fundamental literally for everyone who is a true hardcore veteran or gamer of a particular game, right? With it you'll get whatever comes out within the following year, and don't forget, sometimes the developer is under a lot of pressure from the gaming community, and they tell you you'll get 3 episodes and you get 12, you know. So there could be always a lot more content coming out to what is actually advertised. So that's a good investment. In addition to that, as you could see, you are getting some extra weapons and kit right at the beginning, 3 service packs, one of which is very important, and it will affect the gameplay. You'll have something quite advanced from the very beginning. It will make your positioning in the game better. Therefore, I think it's a good investment. I always go for the best editions, you know. Obviously, you have to decide and consider whether they are including all the other things which should be there. But the Ultimate Edition of Division 2, as described, is exactly that. Let me have a look. Another message coming in. Riding Low says, I didn't play the first division. What's different with this one? Well, Riding Low, I can tell you that when you open, let's say if you were a gamer of the Division 1 and then you migrated to the Division 2, the first thing which you will see is that the system is identical. So have no trouble in finding your inventory, locating your character, changing weapons, examining inventory. That's all exactly as it should be. So, you know, the core of the system is exactly the same. On the other hand, the way the game is structured in an open world with many locations, with many challenges, with many tasks, is massively enhanced. So from the word go, the first thing you see is You're not just going to a particular destination in order to do your mission. If you're walking the streets, you will have to be engaging the enemy on many different checkpoints before you get to your destination, which is allocated as your main mission. So in fact, you are doing obviously skirmishes and sub-quests automatically, and if you're doing it by yourself, it could be very difficult, because in order to get to that place, you may well be eliminated quite a few times, meaning you have to start from the beginning. So do you know what I mean? It's quite advanced, and it's best played in a squad. I really would advise you to play it in a squad, minimum of 3, and for the best results, the squad of 4. So that would be my personal recommendation. I've done squads of 4, squads of 3, squads of 2 on the weekend, and I have to say I most thoroughly enjoyed squads of 2 and squads of 4. And Riding Low says Destiny 2 isn't like that at all. I guess these were the comments related to what I said about Destiny 1. Absolutely, Destiny 2 is not like that, and that's exactly why people complained. This is why Destiny 2 was not well received when it came out by the Destiny 1 veterans. And the reason this channel became very popular amongst the Destiny 1 community members, and I was astonished that, after streaming for a few weeks last year, I've had everybody coming in, is very simple. They discovered the channel that was solely dedicated at that time to Destiny 1. At that time migrated to Destiny 2 or just completely left. And, the vast majority of people told me that they did have a serious problem with Destiny 2, because there was this big discrepancy. Well, in many different ways. From the way the concept was changed, through the story, through the more intense RPG element, and most importantly through the lack of content. They felt it was flimsy. It was nothing compared to all the battles and all the adventures that people had in Destiny 1, and also the way you were kind of grinding and having difficulty levels and all that. Well, that's been all brought back with Annual Pass on Destiny 2 Forsaken, and I think therefore it evens out. If you were just doing the base game, you won't have the same experience. MST Storm's asking, can you log in or is it just me? MST Storm, the beta is finished, and we are conducting a feedback stroke online review stroke Q&A on our experience of the Division 2 open beta. So we are not streaming the game, we are simply discussing our experiences of the last weekend in order to provide the publisher and the developer with relevant feedback. So all said in the course of this feedback session will be provided to them. And Riding Low says, I don't mind really change, but they fell way off track. I guess when you talk to Destiny 1 veterans, you get, particularly coming from people who are in the industry, people who work in the industry, you will get the experience, you'll get the view, you get an opinion on what the causal factors might have been, right? So the view is, once Bungie got involved with Activision, there were going to be problems, because Activision generally is not focused on the story, and therefore they will be applying certain changes and certain approaches which are suited to their own best known effort or their concept. And that didn't work out, and in fact, as you could see a few weeks ago, Bungie and Activision divorced. They're no longer a unit, although they predicted a unit of about 6 or 7 years. Therefore, I think Bungie are listening to the community. They've seen what didn't work, and they were enraged by certain comments coming from Activision that indicated that Destiny 2 Forsaken was not selling as well as expected. Well, that was a very serious piece of misguided information given to the world. What they did try to say was that the sales were somewhat slower than expected, but saying that they didn't sell as well as expected is something else. It means that the game's just bombing. It's just not happening. And, there were certain concerns, because the Destiny 2 sold very well, and Destiny 2 Forsaken sold in a very, very good fashion. And I think the annual pass and all the content which has been introduced since December has gathered pace. I mean, many more people joined. So, I think that would be unfair, and indeed, therefore, in addition to all the other issues, they decide to part company. And Riding Low says, just compare the raids. Well, I've not played the raids myself, but you will find that the vast majority of people who are your Destiny veterans will always go back to Destiny 1 raids, and they'll do them again and again. And I participated in one of those. I was invited by a regular team from the US. They had a player down, so they asked me, whether I want to experience it, and it was a terrific experience because they've done those raids many times, and they provided me with correct advice, told me exactly what I had to do, and it was a wonderful experience. We kind of finished it in about 40 minutes, and I've left it on my highlights. It's still available there on my channel, on Twitch, so you can have a look. But just like you said, they all told me that they were not happy with the same elements in Destiny 2. But maybe the views changed by now. This was all happening before the seasons were introduced. And Riding Low, are you also doing the seasons? Have you tried the seasons? Because lots of people who were unhappy with Destiny 2 before the seasons were introduced are quite happy today. And, they talked openly about it here on my channel. I've heard from several who initially would have said, "Oh, don't go there, it's no good, it's a waste of money," to the point where they say, "Oh, actually, that is very good." In fact, some find it to be a bit overwhelming as well. They had to grind for quite a while, and it's a long haul to get to certain results, and some of the guys really like that. And Radlon says, "Sorry for getting you off track." No, not at all. You didn't provide me with any distractions. It's all about connectivity and communication here. So sometimes when I talk about a particular topic, I'll always look at the comments and views that come in, and I'll respond to them and connect, because the reason people come to my channel and participate here is purely to do with that. It's the quality content coming from the community. You know that the entire industry is focused on the community being as interactive as possible, and that's not just through Twitch streams. It's also combining activities on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and having a merger of different sort of opinions and views, and talking live on air. What better way to connect with people than through chatting here about what you love doing the best in gaming altogether? Always the best, and it's always the most interesting content for other people to view. It's a bit like running an open political debate on television. People bring up their points, they come up with whatever they felt, good and bad, and that's always interesting. There's always dialogue. Riding Low says, twice as hard, long, and no loot compared to D1. Yeah, that certainly would have been my experience of Destiny 2 base game. It seemed more focused on the story. The story was quite short, and looking for certain items, like looking for dead ghosts or for calcified fragments, or having certain tasks which were to be completed over a little while, looking for hidden areas with hidden loot. Didn't seem to find any of that in there in the base game. I've not done Destiny 2 Forsaken, I've not been through the annual pass, so don't quote me on anything related to those. But the base game was just as you described, and that caused obviously many raised eyebrows amongst the fans, for certain. That was one of the reasons as to why people were, not happy. Ragnar says, "I gave up on Destiny 2 when Fortnite dropped, then left that." Well, I personally would advise you, maybe instead of buying all the DLC and the annual pass, to have a look at developer documentaries, which they have on Bungie channel, Destiny section, Destiny 2 section, and then you can see what the additional content provided. And also you can maybe have a look at a few streamer broadcaster reviews on YouTube channels as well, to give you maybe some idea on what challenges were created for the game. There's also what new content was brought in. On the other hand, what you can do is, when I'm streaming Destiny and Destiny 2, you can come here and then talk openly in my forum with some of the Destiny veterans, you know? Because as I haven't been streaming Destiny that much during the last few weeks, and that's due to the Apex release and a few other issues, and also beta being here accessible, Anthem being tested, and you know, so a few other things happening. But I will resume with Destiny from tomorrow, and then once the veterans are in and, you know, discussing things, you can ask them. You can ask them direct, and they'll tell you. What better way to learn but to speak to some of the Destiny veterans who perhaps changed their view, and they changed their experience after proceeding with Forsaken, and particularly with the annual pass. They're on the second season now. You know, the first season finished at the end of February, and there was a lot of content coming in. Oh, I see. Radinloy says, I have it all because I paid up front, and that's what really is not good. So you bought basically the annual pass and the digital edition, the ultimate edition, so to speak, with everything. Well, you know, just like with anything else, pre-ordering could sometimes be a risk. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I guess where Bungie and BioWare and these big companies are different from some other developers is that they do listen to the community, and maybe the unhappiness is not remedied instantly, but you know, in the medium term they do provide extra content, and there are more things coming in, and Radinloy says, all my clanmates even gave up on it. I guess that would have been your Destiny 1 clan, right? People you played with in Destiny 1. Well, I wouldn't like to comment before really being in it. I can only tell you what I've heard from other Destiny veterans, and I'm quite happy to see and hear that some of them who were quite unhappy with the base game had a very different experience after the seasons were introduced. So that's the major difference. You know, maybe if you were very unhappy with the way things were going, what you can do is you can restart playing on a different character, on Hunter or Titan, and then have a run through on the base game, through Forsaken, and then the seasons. Something like that. And you know, try. I think it's always best experience through one's own gameplay. You know, I hear lots of different things from many different people. I have to admit, sometimes I find certain games and certain activities not to be of my preference, although the games are very good. You know, the game could be incredible, but it's not really for my liking, and therefore I wouldn't really indulge too much, or you know, provide many comments which would be perhaps defamatory or negative or any other. What I do mind is if the developer states one thing on the adverts in order to coerce you into pre-ordering or, you know, early purchases, and then does not deliver. Well, that is unacceptable, and that's happened recently with Bethesda. Are you familiar with that? Bethesda had advertised for Fallout 76 several goodies which were to come to people who bought the Ultimate Edition, and they were like a proper reward, similar to what I read out 10 minutes ago on the Ultimate Edition here. You know, you got 3 different packs, service packs. One pack provides it with these weapons which will be used. So how would this be if instead, once the game was released, completely different? It'd be completely unacceptable, and that's what happened with Bethesda. They advertised Canvas Bag, which was a part of Fallout itinerary. You know, it's a part of that Armageddon post-nuclear world in there. It had to be like made of canvas because it prevents radioactivity. There was some sort of attribute attached to it. Not sure exactly what. It looked pretty. It looked like a collectible item. And, you know, a lot of people who would have bought Fallout 3 lunchbox edition, you know, in a big box or anything else of that kind, they say, that's really very collectible. We definitely want to have this. When the Ultimate Edition was shipped, they replaced the canvas bag with a very cheap PVC one. So, you know, everyone who received it jumped straight away because there was this plastic bag in there, which was perhaps not even nice to look at. But the problem there was it didn't fit into that Fallout world. It had to be this canvas bag because there was a reason for it. You know, it was a part of everything that you get there. And then, as people complained on the first day, the guy who was the head of the department didn't even provide a proper explanation. He said something which was extremely displeasing to everyone from that community, and then obviously they were being given a heavy number. Everybody complained even more, and as a result, one of the executives had to go on air to apologize on behalf of the other executive and say that this was some sort of misunderstanding and they'll remedy it straight away. And indeed, they were shipping off then, you know, the canvas bag, and they explained the ins and outs and logistics, but the actual approach coming from the developer was completely unacceptable, because if there was some sort of error, you would expect an apology. They advertised one thing, they provided something completely different, and everything was obviously focused on, you know, pre-orders and early sales, and therefore was even more concern as those things were not delivered and they were not a part and parcel of what was described. You know, so it's a fraudulent trading, if you want it. That is what I denied. That is unacceptable. You can accept glitches because this is all technology, and you can accept that the developer is going to be spending a lot of time working on resolution of glitches and technical problems. Sometimes it'll take months. You cannot predict how your product is going to be working on various platforms. If it is as vast as Anthem or The Division or The Witcher, you know, these massive games. But advertising one thing and then delivering another is a non-starter. So if there is one thing which I have problems with, then that is the one. And Riding Low says, dealing with Activision anymore is always a risk. Well, everyone who's a serious gamer will state that, you know. Everyone will say, well, there's always a problem attached to it because Activision are such and such, and, you know. Well, what can I tell you? It also depends on a kind of chemistry that Activision will have with the developer. If there is a good merger of ideas, there will be good results. If there is a mismatch, you know, the developer wanting one thing, taking to one direction, and you know, the other entity wanting something which is focused on, you know, maybe the commerce more than the actual gameplay, then you will have problems. And I guess this is what would have happened with Bungie and Activision. Bungie is one of the best developers, you know, they have history of producing wonderful games, and they're also one of those developers, I guess similar to BioWare, that are very, very connected to the gaming community. They provide lots of events, they cater for their community members, they provide rewards, and, you know, I think if anything was to happen that would interfere in that bond between the gamers and, you know, the executives, then or the executive decision making, then that would be of grave concern, and certainly the company would be no more. So we have some other people coming in and asking questions. Yeah, Heat is here saying hello. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here with us. We are reviewing our experience of the Division 2 open beta with our community members. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. And Flip says there's some mic error somewhere. I don't know what that is, sir. You have to really be a bit more precise. I don't know what error there is. There isn't any error on the Division 2. Open beta is no longer functioning, and the reason for that is simple. The testing of this game ended earlier today, 9 o'clock British time, 10 o'clock European time. And the beta is no longer active, is no longer accessible. I apologize. I have to take a very, very short break here because there's something wrong in the throat. Suddenly a bit croaky. Just please bear with me. So the other committee members are saying a few more things, and Riding Low says, I've been down with Activision since MW4, and they went up, then down. And Riding Low says, mean COD 4. Call of Duty 4, yeah. Well, you know, I tested Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Blackout a few weeks ago. It was a weekend where it was offered. It was like it's not open beta. It was just testing the game basically for the community. And I can see as to why some people are unhappy. Also, I've heard, well, some people who played it extensively, they said, well, what's the idea for the developer to be importing everything from Tencent, you know, the guys who created PUBG, because it's just literally like a clone. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I think always best judged once the product is out. And I would always invite every community member to be vocal. But by doing so, I think everyone needs to understand how the communication in this industry works. Writing lengthy letters, long-winded comments and views is of no use to anyone, you know. One has to be, first of all, articulate and polite in explaining with bullet points, 3 or 4, what worked, what didn't. And if many people send such messages, which were clear, concise, focused, and indeed exposing the failings, then the developer would have to stand to attention. If not, there will be yesterday's news. To be honest with you, maybe one of the best ways of contacting or expressing such views is twofold. You can write a comment, you could say a message, which is, you know, fairly crisp and fairly short, and then send it directly to the developer, to the department which is responsible for feedback. Obviously, many different companies will have publishers, different departments. But what's better and more effective is if you go to Reddit. Every developer will have a thread attached to, which is an official thread, to a review of their particular product. For instance, we have, you know, a dedicated thread on Reddit for the Division 2 open beta run by the publisher and the developer. And then the same message you can post in there. You can, you know, maybe rephrase it a bit, but what I'm trying to say is you will have then that degree of satisfaction. You've sent something directly to the developer. On the other hand, if you're writing on Reddit, this is accessible to everyone. So even the investors into those, you know, companies will be able to read. And if there are many, many comments expressing dissatisfaction, then this is of concern to everyone. So, you know, it's definitely worthwhile considering. Riding Low says, Blackout is good, but multi is off. Multiplayer, right? And Riding Low says, they're trying to please everyone, so they give free rewards. Like score streaks, not kill streaks. To be honest with you, I think the difficulty with franchises, if you're looking at Call of Duty or any other that has many installments, is in the executive decision on how to keep this product with a very long shelf life. that is a key concern. They're worried that if they were keeping everything the same, the interest from the community would drop, and they come up with different ideas. I think what Blackheart was, probably the idea to merge the concept, which is popular, obviously, with another game, and then import it to see whether there will be a migration on influx of people who are dedicated PUBG, gamers, to their own, basically, to Black Ops. But I think when it comes to multiplayer and PvP, it is fundamental that the developer is focused on the community review, because it's the community of gamers that is basically paying the money for the game and enjoying it or playing it every night or every day. And that is very important. We are no longer living in an era where you could produce a PC game and then just forget about it. Once it's out, that's it, Living in the era of interactivity, and everything you mentioned, sir, is very relevant, and I've heard it from other gamers of Call of Duty. And I tell you, Riding Low, have you played Apex Legends? Have you tried Apex Legends at all? I'm quite curious to hear. Apex Legends is this brand new battle royale. It's been out now for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been literally... You played, yeah? Can you tell me a bit, what's your experience of it? Because I'll feed back the information which is related to Call of Duty and Battlefield, and also, correlated to Apex. I had many people migrating from those other 2 games to Apex, and I had many conversations with them, so I'll be able to tell you quite a lot. But I'm quite curious to hear, what is your experience of Apex so far? How did you find it? What characters you liked? Just very briefly. Apologize for a short break. I had to really clear my throat because for some reason I'm getting a bit of a sore throat. I don't know why. It just seems that it's really bizarre, and it just happened today. Maybe I caught something when I was coming back to my office. I'm not sure. Anyway, focusing on what we talked about earlier, we were focusing on Call of Duty and Battlefield, and we talked about Apex, the fact that lots of Call of Duty and Black Ops 4 and PUBG and Battlefield people migrated to Apex, and I asked Riding Low about his experiences of Apex, how he found it so far, and what characters he liked and what the overall gameplay, appeared to be like. So Riding Low said yes, he played Apex, and indeed he left Blackout for it. So I take it Riding Low really appreciated Apex and enjoyed it. Extreme HD is asking whether open beta ended. Indeed it did end, and it's no longer going to be active, so you will not be able to access it. It finished earlier today, and you'll be able to access the game from Tuesday if you pre-ordered, and on Friday if you just are considering still buying it. And Riding Low says it's a good game and it's free, and you can't really beat that. And No Face No Case is here as well. Hello sir, how are you doing? Very good to see you, No Face No Case. We are just talking about Apex here and actively reviewing our participation in this game, and also comparing it to some of the other shooters. So it'd be very good to hear from you as well, how you found it and what your experiences are. You can share them here with our other gamers. Riding Low in particular has been very active here with our review of the Division 2 open beta, and I'm very grateful for that. And as you could see, Riding Low says Apex is just wonderful. You can't beat it. Free of charge, and very engaging with all the characters. And I have some other people coming in asking about beta, and this guy Arneson is asking, what are you waiting for? Well, we are not waiting for anything. We are holding a review of the Division 2 open beta, and basically we are reviewing our experiences of the last weekend, right? If you are interested, Arneson, in doing open beta, then I can tell you open beta is no longer operational. You will not be able to play it. We are not here to play the game. We are here tonight reviewing our experience of open beta, the Division 2, which we conducted over the weekend. So this is the nature of our activity today. Riding Low says I play all characters, but Bangalore is my go-to. Riding Low, I think my favorite characters in Apex are Bangalore and Mirage. They're absolutely terrific, and I've played very many games with those. No Face No Casebook says I'm top 100 on PlayStation 4 with Mirage at Bamboozling on the Tracker app. Well, that is fantastic news. Congratulations, my dear sir. Myself and No Face No Case, we played many matches together. We were a squad, and we are a squad together when we can obviously find time to play Apex. And we had lots of battles. We had some victories. We were frequently down to the last few. And as you could see, No Face No Case is progressing really on the leaderboards, which is fantastic. And very, very happy to hear. Very happy to hear that. During the first couple of weeks, I reached level 65. It was at 63. And I have not been playing Apex during the last 12 days as much, because I focused on Destiny 1, which is the main game here on this channel. And then I've also had other beta tests, one of which is the Division 2. So there wasn't that much time, really. Also, the other thing is, with Apex is the best played with your clan or with your crew, because some teams doing it are very tactical and very experienced. Maybe not in Apex, but in other Battle Royale and other tactical shooters. They come in as a team, knowing what they want to be doing, and they're much superior to everyone else. As you know, it's a team effort game, similar to the Division, although the Division is obviously not a Battle Royale. And if you have a weak member in a squad, or if you have a weakness like what happens with the random matchmaking, then people basically go their own way, do the solo effort, and then everything crumbles. So, you know, very, very important to be focused on that team effort. And No Face, No Case and myself, we played lots of games together. We always did everything as a squad. And as you could see, No Face, No Case is already on top 100 on PS4 with Mirage. And that's just absolutely amazing. In fact, I will have a look, quite curious to see with other community members who are also my regular kind of squad mates. I have several. Quite interested to hear what developments there were during the last week, because I need to say also to everyone else that Apex yesterday broke the all-time record of online gaming. They had 50 million players attached to the game, and this was a massive 100% increase from the previous 2 weeks, where they had 25 million. And as you know, after the first week, Apex managed to beat Fortnite by a week and a half, and also by the number of followers and gamers, I mean people who were subscribed to the game, because Fortnite had 10 million after 2.5 weeks, Apex had 25 million after 1 week, and after 3 weeks Apex has 50 million subscribers, i.e. active gamers, which is truly mind-boggling. It's astonishing. But for all of us who play the game, No Face, No Case and myself included, we know as to why that is. The game is just absolutely astonishing. It's very interactive, it's very community focused, has beautiful characters, very playable, even as it has some glitches. Still very, very highly enjoyable to play. And Riding Low is congratulating No Face, No Case, as you could see. Great to be here and great to be able to talk about achievements and everything we experienced so far. Casey Sensi is here, and I can hear some very, very offensive comments in here, so my moderators are going to be taking charge immediately, so just bear with me. Very rarely do we get anything like that, but I apologize to the rest of my viewers. As you know, when you make broadcasting and these forums open to everyone, now and then you get somebody who is unpleasant, and this channel, together with the rest of the online entrepreneur community, has zero tolerance towards anyone who says anything which is considered unfriendly, unhelpful, offensive, or indeed not family friendly. You've seen that this person was making offensive comments towards our community and myself, and the moderators have taken charge immediately. They are being reported, and if need be, they will be prosecuted. So, you know, I'll leave that to Twitch to decide. And yeah, so we were talking about Apex, and as we've heard, Riding Low said that he really liked Apex and Bangalore was one of his favorite characters. And I played all characters in Apex, and you know, I guess depends on the style and the personal preference. I've seen some people playing, for instance, Gibraltar all the time. I've seen some people resorting to Caustic and using that poison tactically. You know, it depends on how one wants to strategize. I think it also depends whether you're playing in a permanent squad or whether you are resorting to random matchmaking. Because with random matchmaking, it's always better if you stick to one character, the character who you like the best. If you are in your squad, then you can be obviously juggling strategies depending on how you really decided to pursue the battle. So. Riding Low says they don't listen though. Well, you mean Twitch and that? Well, depends. If you are a professional broadcaster and if you have external companies that do moderation, then they do, because the complaints come through the companies, and I guess just like any other corporation, they'll be more attentive to you know, comments and views that come from firms. So, well, it depends also on what is said, because I've had one person making some very nasty racist comments this a couple of weeks ago, and out of the blue, and actually it wasn't even a person, it seemed like a bot, you know. And then I did have some direct responses from Twitch who were acknowledging the content and investigating it, you know, so... Radino says he was talking to the two above him. Yeah, I don't know really what the idea was there, so I would just ignore that sort of thing, you know. The only trouble I have is that as I broadcast on 20 different platforms, when you have comments made which have been... When you block or ban or you edit or you intervene as moderator, or your moderators intervene on Twitch, they will be deleting contents, but unfortunately, due to the way the software works, they cannot be deleted from what's recorded. So they still remain on display as people are accessing content through replay and that, through archives, you know. So that's always of concern. On PC and on Android, once moderator intervene, it resolves the problem immediately. But for what's recorded, unfortunately, we can't delete that manually. So that's just the way it is at the moment, up to the point where the software changes. Okay, so coming back to Apex and coming back to the Division 2, I just wanted to say that with Apex, I felt they combined some of the very best of PUBG with some characters that to me looked a bit like, you know, the guys from Borderlands, and then some strategy imported from, I guess, Titanfall and the Division, tactical gameplay, so to speak. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I played it for 2 weeks every day. Went to that level 65 during those 2 weeks. I think at the moment I think I'm 70, 72. I can't remember now. I forgot now. But I really wanted to level it up to 100 because that's the top level. But it's just a time factor. And also the trouble I had was, if I didn't have my squad with me, or people who were my regular teammates, I had to resort to matchmaking, the random matchmaking. The random matchmaking engine is not good, and it's selecting people literally out of a hat, you know, so you don't have any matchmaking in terms of skill or leveling or anything like that. During the first 10 days, the vast majority of people who I teamed up with through random matchmaking were experienced gamers, and they were really excellent, and I did manage to get some new friends and squad mates, you know, through the gameplay. But then after about 10 days, the vast majority of the guys coming in on random matchmaking was basically either people who never tried the game before, or the guys who prefer single player missions. And you know, you can see straight away from the gamer behavior when you you know, you go into the drop zone, even before you dropped, they're already kind of doing the solo effort. They don't want to jump in the same area with you. They skive off, and then guess what? As soon as they land, they're compromised and they get killed. And most frequently, even with my team member No Face No Case, who was here with us tonight, we would have the third member coming in and doing something, you know, inherently damaging to our effort, to our team effort. For instance, we are going to the area which is a bit secluded with a lot of good loot. The other guy disconnects and goes into the hot zone, and he gets killed instantly. So two of us, you know, are being endangered. Our lives are endangered. We're obviously going to help the third teammates. We go in there, we get jumped, and we get attacked by 3 teams at once. So, you know, that sort of play behavior is then endangering both the mission, the squad, the task. And unfortunately, after about 10 days of gameplay, I had many of those guys coming in when I played by myself, as well as when I played with several squad team members, and that was just really very annoying. And from my gamer's point of view, was also very non-competitive. What happened was that I would be then helping them. Let's say I had two guys doing it and doing completely, totally wrong things, and endangering obviously the mission. They would get killed quickly. They go in the area where you have lots of teams jumping in, so I'm going to rescue them. And sometimes I rescue them, sometimes I manage to do that, but other times I get killed, which means I get killed very early. Although my kind of survival rate in Apex was generally between 17 and 22 minutes. That's on average. That would be my probably about 18-19 minutes on average. So, trouble really. And the other thing that I experienced in Apex, and I think many of my teammates shared this, was, on the surface, the game appears to be working very well, and there aren't any major glitches. Although when you are jumping into certain areas, like we usually jump into the bunker, where you kind of jump from above and there's lots of good loot in there. That area is glitched with massive lag. So you go in there, and before you kind of landed, you get frame dropping, and then you freeze, and it becomes unplayable. So if any other teams, jump in, you'll get compromised, and you get killed straight away. So that's visible. That happens sometimes when you are, coming to certain areas, and before landing, everything freezes and everything is with a serious lag. But the other, which has been of a lot more concern, is the one related to the server speed and hit registration ratio, right? Hit registration is not always the same, depends on what server you're on. No Face No Case and myself played quite a few missions where we would empty out 2 magazines on our Hemlock or the other top weapons into the enemy. The enemy wouldn't even buckle. They fire at us 1 or 2 bullets, we are instantly dead or bleeding to death, right? So I investigated that, and I wanted to know what was going on, and it's been established that some countries and some areas are on much faster servers. Therefore, they can see you a bit quicker to what you can see them, and the velocity of the bullets and the hit ratio is significantly different, and they're not even using top weapons, which is really infuriating. Like, quite a few of us were trying to get to the best kit, and we were going around and looking for them, and properly kitted up. And it happens that the person wearing lower quality kit is wasting us with ease, whilst we are using top weapons on them, and they're not feeling or appearing to be particularly vulnerable. So that is an ongoing problem within Apex, which has been driving some people mad, particularly the experienced gamers from Battlefield and PUBG, because they could see that something didn't really work properly. During the first week, we all worked out we had to have top weapons with top level optics as well. But coming back to your points earlier, Riding Low, I would say Apex is a fantastic game. Some of those glitches didn't spoil my enjoyment and the continuous gameplay. I felt that this is an issue that will get resolved eventually. I think it may well be server based, or there may be some other problems. I'm not sure what could be causing it, but I'm not really bothered. I'm not in there for the kill and for the massive scores. I'm there to enjoy the community element, participation of other guys, having some good discussions going, and I have to say it's been very, very good, because all of my sessions were in a public broadcast. I didn't have anyone causing any problems. Riding Low says it does have bugs. Can you tell me what bugs you would have detected? Because I described the two, the one which is very obvious, the other one which is hidden. In fact, when analyzing it, I realized that there was also the bug on ping rate, and people who were on very high ping rate, they were able to kill the enemy even through walls. Did you know that? So if you were sometimes killed, you were like inside the building, and you thought you were fully protected. There could have been enemies shooting at the wall because they saw you in there, and you would get killed. It's happened to me a few times. So I said, how can this possible? They hit me with a grenade, or how, you know? And that's another bug which I spotted. Goodness, this has been a very, very interesting review. We talked at length about the Division 2, and we now move to Apex, which is not surprising. Apex is... There you go. There you go. Riding Low says, agree with you, I was shot through a door yesterday. Well, that's one of those serious and very hidden bugs in there. And that is also connected to that server speed. It's very similar to... when you're out in the open, you have enemy maybe 2 or 3 yards ahead of you. You use Wingman, which is the most powerful revolver or pistol in there, or you can even have, let me think, carbine, or you can have Spitfire. You're unloading the whole lot of rounds into this character, who's actually, you know, kneeling, bleeding, and they're not taking any hits. And then suddenly they vanish. What happens most of the times is, when this glitch is apparent, as obviously I'm attacking one of the other team members of some other team, the other guys jump me and I'm instantly killed. Do you see what I mean? So I'm doing my best to neutralize the opponent, who appears to be very weak. I am not there. I mean, I'm not able to neutralize them, and the other guys jump in and kill me. Alan is here and he says, play it, man. Well, what are we going to play tonight when open beta is no longer active? We are conducting a review. We are not playing any games tonight. We are running a review of the Division 2 open beta for the benefit of the publisher. Everything said in here is going to be collected and then sent to publisher as a part of the formal review of open beta, which we were playing during the last 4 days. So no games tonight, only discussions. Riding Low says, I closed the door, he walked up to the other side and shot through. You see, in my tactics, what I do is, I'm always entering buildings and shutting all doors. The reason is very simple. If you're playing stealthily, and if you're in a battle royale, when people are running amok or in hurry, they will know straight away that if there's the open door, you know, in any of the buildings, there is a possibility that somebody is in there, or they'll know somebody has been there, right? Meaning collecting loot or whatever. If you close all the doors, you're concealing your position, so then they're not to know straight away, and therefore the bug is obviously enraging, because you're doing everything through a gameplay to protect your own life in there, and then this bug is enabling some other guys Just bear with me a second. Got some messages from a moderator. Riding Low says, think the hit detection and weapon output is off. I agree. I wrote to the developer and I asked them, did they detect that there was a problem with hit ratio? And they said that, well, they did recognize that there's a problem with the way certain servers communicate, depending on the region. But they said they were working on that. This will be resolved in due course, etc., etc. But in my experience, it is, well, I'm in the UK, right? And no face, no cases in the UK. We are like UK gamers. And we did have some problems with other people who were from other countries, because, for instance, we launched a section attack on a position which was well below us, right? We were in an elevator position. No face, no case was in a forward position as a striker, right? And he had very good weapons. I was watching his back, and another team member stealthily from above with top-notch sniper, top-notch optics, level 4 optics. It wasn't Kraber, what's it called? Yeah, but it was another, the triple take sniper, right? Very, very powerful sniper. And I see the enemy down below. I do 3 headshots on him, right? 3 headshots. He wasn't moving much. None of those headshots registered. Not a single one. With those headshots and triple take, level 4 optics, he should have been dead instantly. So, that's where the trouble was. And that's probably what's caused by the server interactivity. Nothing we could do about it, unfortunately, That's the trouble. Radler says, like the Peacekeeper, one time you can 1-shot to 2-shot, well, sometimes even 3 or 4. I know that some of my teammates were using Peacekeeper and some were using Mastiff, and principally for close quarter battle, either of those 2 should have been absolutely deadly with 1 shot when you're close. Yeah, and they didn't work at all. Riding Low says, next time you get 8 damage. Well, I've been in very many different battles. I think probably played maybe 600 matches, or maybe even more than that. I think I was at 500 during the first couple of weeks, and definitely inconsistency with hit registration ratio. It's absolutely visible, because a lot of people might think your aiming is not particularly good or something is off, but that's not the case. If you're using top optics on top weapons, you can really tell the difference. And also what happens is sometimes you're being hit from very, very far, so they're hitting you with either, well, not that frequently sniper rifles. Sniper rifles are not that popular in the game compared to PUBG. A lot of people are using automatic weapons. Prowler is one of the favorites, and then Hemlock, and Carbine they use quite a lot. And you can see that he's hitting you from 500-600 meters distance. You hit once and you're already bleeding to death. I mean, I don't get it. There is a problem in there, and that began to annoy me after I played it for a few weeks, and even more so if I had to be in a squad with randomly selected gamers, where in fact they were just doing the solo effort, and therefore, and Riding Low is saying, talking about close range, well, with Peacekeeper it's always going to be close range, with a shotgun, and usually you would be at very close proximity, less than a couple of yards, and that indeed has been a problem with my squads, because the person who's playing the most offensive player in my squad will always have an automatic and shotgun, right? So shotgun he will use for close quarter, and we've had problems all the time. Sometimes it worked with 1 shot, sometimes it didn't work with 4 or 5 shots. In fact, I have clips of No Face, No Case, 2 of us playing together, where he was less than a meter away from the enemy, and the enemy didn't have a shield. He fired 4 rounds, literally from his Peacekeeper into this enemy. The enemy was not sustaining any damage whatsoever, and sorry, I'm getting quite a few messages coming in from different platforms, so I'm trying to really digest everything. On the other hand, we had another mission, No Face, No Case and myself, and we were in a confined area, and there were 2 enemies, not 1, who were attacking me. I got killed, or I was bleeding to death. I can't remember, killed or bleeding to death. I was bleeding to death. And those 2 enemies, one of them buckled and was bleeding, the other one was fully alive, and my teammate got in with Peacekeeper, fired off the action, 1 shot. 2 of these guys were killed with 1 shot. So one who was bleeding and the other who was fully healthy, right? And Riding Low says, I proved my point to a friend with it, had the guy with no shield, low health, then shot him in the head and he didn't go down. That's right. That's right. That's exactly what's been happening to us. And not once, but hundreds of times. And this is where, for instance, that glitch or that deficiency of the game becomes a permanent concern. Because you will remember that with some of the games, the gamers that are on very fast fiber optic connection, very fast fiber, they will have slight advantage because they'll see players earlier. And then if that's coupled with this type of hit ratio glitch, then evidently, somebody is having much greater advantage than another team. And Radimlo says, wanted to clip it but forgot. Well, I've had a few times situations like that, where you would, for instance, have, the enemy guy bleeding on the floor, right? And I have my wingman fired off the whole magazine, and he didn't suffer any damage, nothing. So what I've done then is I would come even closer to him, use melee attack. So one melee should finish him off, but I had to melee him 6 times, and then eventually he was dead. But there were a few situations where I was doing melee 3 or 4 times, he didn't die, and then another teammate of his killed me. 1 shot, 2 shots, and I'm dead. For whatever reason, my character seems to be very vulnerable to 1 and 2 shot kills, and I think maybe it's to do with my internet connection. Yeah, Riding Low says Wingman is the same way. Well, to tell you the truth, with Wingman I had some incredible kills and results even from the distance, but that's because probably the other guy's server was slower or something. And then on the other hand, I've had very, very good results with P20 automatic, which is a low grade weapon, and I had a few kills with that one as well, and not with a lot of difficulty. The character was sort of walking, I left it on automatic, and he was dead quite quickly. So it wasn't possible to define what the real cause was, but definitely interfering with the gameplay. And I guess for myself, I'm not doing Apex competitively. It is obviously in a forum open to our community members, and it's for entertainment and communication and connectivity. But that must be insanely infuriating for people who are competitive gamers, because obviously they're chasing scores, and this is happening all the time. So, a big problem for certain. Radima says everything comes into play, but stuff shouldn't be off much. Yeah, but it is. I think in a battle royale shooter, if you have serious problems which are server based on hit registration ratio, then that's a serious problem. But what's interesting is it's not been widespread. I mean, it's not been reported everywhere. You have widespread reporting on Anthem and the bugs and all this, but I think probably the reason is that people don't realize it's hidden. You realize it after you've done lots of matches and after you tested it, and particularly when you do it with experienced gamers, people who know exactly what's going on. I think a lot of people don't notice this. They think, well, we've been compromised. That maybe also because Apex is quite fast. I find it to be more accelerated than some other games, some battle royale, maybe because the map is quite small. It's a very densely populated area, lots of different locations, lots of buildings. You find it to be very relentless, and you just it's very pacey, you keep cracking on, and so coming back to the Division 2 open beta, what I really liked was the combination of different types of activities. So when you were pursuing a story-based mission and you were doing it on foot, with your team you had to be walking from one section of the city to another, and then you had lots of different sub-quests in there, incursions and compromises on the way. So that made it really, really diverse. On the other hand, you could be strolling through the streets and then you're being basically called by another member who needs another gamer who needs backup. You can join his mission, you can help him out. You know, you have a random selection of missions for teams, which could be also very interesting. So there was quite a diversity, and I quite like the fact that you could walk around wherever you wanted, lots of different stashes and loot. Radim was asking, did you have any sound issues when you played the beta? The only sound issues I had were on the end game, and that happened yesterday. Otherwise I had none. So just for the end game, but the end game was very badly glitched on the sound. I had no sound at all. It was either completely silent or I just could hear some peripheral noises. Nothing in terms of, you know, firefight music, gigging, so to speak. Nothing of that sort. And then the movement and acceleration, it's just complete absence. It was completely quiet. You know, we were in a big firefight there with these guys in Jefferson Center, and you can hear like a fly, or you can hear something rattling outside, like the wind blowing, that sort of thing. So anybody doing it would be very, you know, affected by that, unfortunately. And that was the only serious glitch and serious problem I had. For the rest of the beta, when I was playing story and side missions, I did have sound dropping very, very briefly. So that would have been for maybe 15 seconds on firing off my weapon. So when I was firing off, for 10 seconds, the sound would disappear, but it would come back on. Just on my weapon, not on anything else. And the only glitch I had through the entire open beta on the other missions, that we could say non-end game, the glitch was when I played the viewpoint mission, and for whatever reason I neutralized all the opponents but the last staff sergeant, and then when I was coming back to the area where he disappeared, and I could see the dot indicating him, but he was invisible. And it was annoying because the story mission was lengthy and I played it in co-op, and the last section was just left to myself because my co-op member left, so I had to replay the whole thing. But that was the only other glitch. Riding Light says, my buddy and I had issues where the sound would go out after a few hours the last 2 days with weapons and the game. No, I didn't have this. I can tell you one glitch on the story and other missions, which was to do with Staff Sergeant disappearing. That was one glitch, and the weapon sound would go off a couple of times for about maybe 10 seconds or so, but that's about it, nothing else. But the end game was very, very glitched and very troubling, you know, with everything. And I was very glad to have played it with a very experienced tactical shooter, you know, gamer, because he knew exactly what to do and we were able to progress. Otherwise, it would have been very, very difficult. And I really wanted to experience the end game to find out what it's going to be like. And as you remember, it was very hectic and with lots of enemies in fairly confined areas, so one had to be fairly fast and very tactical, and also one had to be using appropriate weapons. And also maybe what was a bit tricky is you have your loadout on the main character throughout the entire lot of missions and subquests and everything, and then during the end game your entire loadout is different. You have completely different weaponry, and some of the stuff which I had, like the chemical weapon, mortar, I couldn't use at all. So that puts you in a difficult position in terms of trying out different things, because you have your tactics and strategy which you practice throughout the whole beta, and then for the very final step, which is the bonus, you can't do any of that, you know. That was a bit disconcerting. So let me just have a look. I wanted to tell you a bit more earlier on the Division 2 and its opportunity to capitalize on Anthem's shortcomings. So I'm quite curious to see what IGN said about this. We did establish well, in our community, that the concept of 4 tactical squad members and each one of them being a specialist in Anthem was related to the Division. So it was very similar in that respect. The only difference is we are talking about a different world, right? This is a kind of post-apocalyptic tactical shooter, whilst Anthem is, as you know, an RPG stroke shooter happening in the distant universe, sci-fi style. So what they said in the IGN was, when the Division 2 was first announced to be coming out a month after Anthem at E3 last year, IGN sort of considered that the familiar-looking sequel to 2016's original would have a hard time stealing the spotlight from the flashy and, to a degree, innovative sci-fi shared world shooter, meaning they all expected Anthem would be killing it. But now Anthem is out, and after the IGN played like 40 plus hours of the game, they felt that quite the opposite is true. They felt Anthem combat was fun, they had high hopes for the future, but the fact remained that too much of its meaningful multiplayer gameplay and progression was hidden behind its repetitive and weirdly lonely quest grind. So they felt that there was a discrepancy between the story missions and the actual, tactical activity in there as a multiplayer, which is what a lot of people remarked on, I have to say. I haven't heard any of that from my community members, but I've seen that in the online press. They said that RPG and combat were completely disjointed. I personally can't comment on that because I didn't experience any of it during my VIP and open demo test, but it may have, it may be coming across differently in the actual game. I don't know, really, not my experience. So IGN say then, with this all too common shared world shortcoming fresh in players' minds, Massive Entertainment is in a unique position to showcase what lessons it's learned from the 3 years of post-launch support on the Division. Even before reading this further, I can tell you I agree with that, because I was really struck by the ease of use, the system and the concept, which is instantly recognizable, identical to the first game. So if you played the Division 1, you'd be absolutely at home when you start this game from the word go. So the systems remain exactly the same, but the world around the character has changed, and that's a touch of genius. That's just the way it needs to be. You do not want your systems to be changing from game to game if it's a part of the same franchise. You want it to be exactly the same. We talked early on, Riding Low and myself, about Destiny 1 and 2 and how this backfired, and many of our Destiny veterans indeed backed this up over the months and years, and I think it's very, very important for that to be kept the same. So one of the directors of Massive Entertainment, Julian Garrity, said, the amazing thing about working on the live game for the Division 1 is that we have 2 years of learnings, and then of how people enjoy playing the game, what people enjoy the most about it. And then we know that the end game is where the core, the meat of the experience really lies. So we went into the Division 2 not with a multiplayer first attitude, because that is a given. We went in with an end game first attitude. So you see, that's quite interesting. He's one of their senior executives and a person who's working as a creative director at Massive Entertainment, obviously very responsible for the way the game is going to look like. They were conceiving the project with the end game in mind from the word go, and I think this was visible during the open beta session. We really felt the difference once we entered the bonus, which is the end game. You really felt that this was just raising the bar for everyone, and the way you were fighting, the way the enemies were operating, it just was absolutely perfect for a multiplayer and a team of 4, in my opinion. So that definitely rings bells for me. Nothing is certain till the Division 2 launches on the March the 15th, but statements like the one above will make everyone hopeful that it will be picking up what the sequel is putting down. To that end, there are a few ways that the Division 2 can deliver in places where Anthem left everybody waiting. Well, Anthem had very negative response from the online press, and they were all quite polite towards BioWare because everyone likes BioWare as the developer, but you know, the wording used and everything said was indicating thumbs down everywhere. And I'm very, very sad about that, because obviously I have very high expectations for Anthem in the long run. We are going to be having Anthem streams in here, and I really look forward to seeing how everything is going to be developing with Anthem, you know, with the seasons and the DLC content. But first and foremost, in order for people to enjoy the game in full, they've got to resolve those technical problems. I mean, you know, to hear that people's consoles were breaking down and they couldn't really reload the game, and it's just absolutely outrageous. I don't know what's causing it, but evidently it's been reported and it's of a major concern. So Anthem's handcrafted effects on Masterwork and Legendary gear are exactly what everybody wants from their shared world shooter loot. But this unique gear doesn't show up until almost maximum level, so you have to be grinding it the whole game before you get to it. The common, rare and even epic loot drops that you get before reaching the end game are effectively interchangeable in terms of function. A sniper rifle with 4 random and ultimately irrelevant modifiers is no better than a sniper rifle with only 1. As a result, Anthem's power progression stagnates for a large portion of the initial leveling experience. The BioWare has recently announced that they will be revising the system in an upcoming patch. Well, BioWare obviously listening to what people are saying, and you know, there's been some concerns about that long grind, so evidently they will be doing something about it. The Division 2 needs to drop low-level variants of build-altering high-end gear well before hitting the level cap. IGN wanted to be excited about loot during the grind to maximum level, and an underpowered sneak peek at the kind of items they'll be working with once they reach the endgame, and hopefully they'll be doing exactly that. In other words, a progression which is user-friendly. You know, that is what they want. And then one of the greatest missteps of Anthem's Critical Path storyline is its lack of gameplay variety. You're only forced into free play twice, and you can immediately quit the expedition one of those times to advance the story. Similarly, you're never actually required to step foot in Stronghold. Sure, you can run the Tyrant Mine Stronghold early on, but the experience you receive for your efforts is about half that of a regular agent quest or contract, so what on earth is the point at the end? IGN asks. The Division 2 should incorporate bite-sized samples of its varied endgame activities into the initial leveling grind, and so far the signs look pretty good. In the private beta, you receive the mission to enter the Dark Zone only a couple of hours in, and missions like the Jefferson Trade Center mirror the challenging, handcrafted group content that will likely populate the endgame. There are plenty of reasons to communicate with your teammates later on, but during the critical path it's difficult to get a word in edgewise amongst the unceasing expository NPC chatter. Shared world shooters should give you more reasons to play with others than alone, even before hitting the endgame. Unfortunately, Anthem's repetitive mission structure does not offer much incentive to build a proper squad, and simply matchmaking 4 players together to tackle content that's designed to be beatable by a single person does not inspire much camaraderie either. It remains to be seen if the Division 2 can deliver on teamwork-inducing mechanics before or even after arriving at the level cap. Archetype-defining signature weapons and specializations are not unlocked until maximum level, which isn't the ideal for encouraging meaningful team play earlier on. Thankfully, more is always merrier in the Dark Zone, but I'd like some incentive to group up with friends in earlier PvE as well. So that's the reviewer from IGN talking about a few issues that he did not like in Anthem. And you know, I think what comes across is that discrepancy between combat and the story. So the RPG and the combat seem to be disjointed, and therefore combat feels to be either too easy or finalized, you know, too swiftly. Or there is something about it which everybody is obviously bringing to our attention. So we'll see when we crack on. I didn't have this feeling after I played, obviously, the VIP demo, but indeed this may not be the reflection of the full game either. So if the past 2 decades of MMO and shared world shooters have proven anything, it is that a fulfilling endgame is the most difficult box to check. The mechanically intriguing boss fights in Anthem Strongholds will provide everyone with hope for its future. There is currently nowhere near enough of that varied content or even some sort of rewarding content to keep everybody engaged in the long term. So he's saying that perhaps Anthem feels like a game which we'll play once and that's about it, but that's definitely not the intention of BioWare. They want Anthem to be similar to Destiny, a world that is living, residing, growing and progressing. This is where The Division 2 can really shine. Expected endgame activities available at launch are exclusive missions, a choice between 3 class specializations, a new enemy faction called the Black Tusks, and the occupied Dark Zone where anything goes. Shortly after launch, Massive will be laying it on thick with 8-player raids that feature mechanically bespoke, a fancy way of saying each one will feature a unique gameplay twist. So we'll go back, say the raids will feature encounters offering unique loot. Those activities are what unlocks at endgame. The assumption here is that you'll still be able to run scaled up versions of older missions and open world activities as well. If all of these opportunities are further accented by an interesting loot chase, The Division 2 may just be the first shared world shooter to launch with a halfway decent endgame. Well, I would echo that. The endgame, or the glimpse of it, which we had at that Jefferson Center, is amazing, highly enjoyable, very high-paced. So I think the best possible introduction that we could have had. All of that being said, it could be still an uphill battle for Tom Clancy's finest. In spite of a few imprecise telegraphs and bugs, Anthem's combat is excellent. So its deft aerial maneuvering transitions seamlessly into punchy third-person shooting, accented by a suite of mostly fun-to-use abilities that can combine into impactful combos. Crucially, the combat leaves a lot of room for unique mechanical variants, both in terms of enemy encounters and interesting loot modifiers. Dodging fireballs and waves of lava in order to find an opening to call down a bolt of lightning, or annihilating an enemy with a nuke launcher from on high is a lot more interesting than the unremarkable cover-based bullet hose shooting that constitutes the majority of what we've seen of the Division's 2 combat. Well, I absolutely disagree with that. I will not accept, that kind of description at all. The combat in the Division 2 is very, very engaging, and it's obviously based on a 4-man team participation. So, and I think he's jumping a gun a bit here, because at the end of the day he had not played even this demo, or maybe he was given some clips or something, but definitely does not correspond to reality. You see, this is what I mean. Pre-release reviews, he's making everyone biased, and he is writing negatively about both of these games. On one hand, he is slating Anthem for all its failings and misdeeds and mishaps and you name it, and on the other he's saying, well, there's a much greater opportunity for the Division 2, but the combat doesn't look anything very much, it's going to be boring and mundane. We want to be loving the games from the beginning, Creating such content which is giving you negativity from the word go before you even tested it properly is just... Anthem stands head and shoulders over the first Division itself thematically to make gameplay-oriented decisions. The Division is grounded in reality. Normal dudes and in hoodies tend to replace the spectacular boss fights that work so well in shared world shooters. And from what they played of the Division 2, that is still very much the case. A sense of realism is lost the first time you encounter a yellow bar enemy, and nerfing boss hit points will only do so much. If the Division 2 wants to break away from its historically mediocre PvE mechanics, I think it should lean into the more absurd aspects of the world. The Colonel Bliss helicopter fight from the first game is the absolute baseline of what I want to see from Massive's encounter design, and this goes for loot as well. If the firearm can't rattle off a lightning bolt every third shot, because that's somehow more unrealistic than surviving being shot in the head 50 times, then Massive Entertainment needs to think outside of the box when it comes to its unique loot modifiers. What about a flare gun in the pistol slot that, when used to kill an enemy, calls in an NPC reinforcement? Reality is no excuse to be boring. But as you could see, there are lots of suggestions coming from IGN on what the developer could do, but I thought that the capacity we had as gamers in this beta was extended compared to the first game. I thought the combination of that drone which could follow us, then the grenade attack, as well as that kind of chemical mortar or chemical pistol, was exceptional. We were able to combine tactics and strategies even as a single player that could give us victories, and obviously best used when coordinated with a team of 4. So I would sort of disagree with some of the things said there. I think that if somebody is really driven to review too many games at once, he might be just skimming through some of the points and not really looking at anything or everything in depth, and therefore that becomes a major worry. I mean, don't forget, if you're writing for a major entity, reviewing some of those big AAA blockbuster games, well, you better be right on your facts. The assumptions and, ideas may not be very helpful, particularly if the gamers find it to be otherwise. But I guess there is a bit of discrepancy there between the gamers and some of those online magazines. I remember years back when you'd read paper magazines, people would be very active in engaging, with comments and views and debating and all of that, and they'd call those magazines on the phone, explain what they felt and the beef and you name it, write letters. Today, it just seems to me that it's massively diluted, because I did see some people complaining online about certain reviews, but I'd say the communication between some of those magazines and then our kind of gaming community is disjointed in the same way as this reviewer had been describing the world of Anthem. So let's have a look. The Division 2's proximity to Anthem is bound to not only spark comparison but larger discussions about the shared world shooter genre as a whole. At their best, shared world shooters offer truly unique multiplayer experiences like raids and progression-based PvP, but if those rewards are few and hidden behind an uninspired grind, then the whole genre may be marginalized and dismissed. So these were the thoughts of one of the reviewers from IGN, most notably Mr. James Duggan. He's a person who does write for IGN frequently. He does provide reviews, and I would sort of disagree with some of the things said. I find generally the views stated in there prejudicial. It may well be that Anthem and its creators will have to work very hard on extending certain missions and making sure that the interactivity between RPG and combat is seen as more interactive, merging better, functioning better for the enjoyment and entertainment of the gamers. But what he said about the Division 2 seemed very far-fetched. I mean, after playing the open beta for 4 days continuously, I can certainly say that I did not find any of the firefights to be divorced from kind of real life, and I didn't really experience them being pedestrian and mundane. They were very enjoyable and very exciting and very engaging, ideal for larger teams, and I can't wait to see what these raids are going to be like, because with a team of 8, you know, really kind of look forward to see how the game is going to come out at the end. I can see that Riding Low is saying, have a good stream and chat, and I'll catch you later. Enjoy the chat. Well, thank you very much for coming, sir. Really appreciated you being here, and I certainly hope I'll be seeing you on my channel in the future as well for my regular streams of, you know, Destiny and other games, Apex as well. Maybe we can also squad up if you want on Apex and do some things together. And I thank you for your contributions and obviously for your comments and views. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for joining our community. It's been a true pleasure, and also wish you a very good day, and indeed I wish you a very, very good night. So we have been talking about our experience of the Division 2 open beta, and we talked about lots of different things. We talked about the developer, Massive Entertainment. We talked about the publisher, Electronic Arts. We talked about the gameplay experience. We described different sections of the game, everything we've done and completed. We talked about PvP missions in the Dark Zone. We talked about the access to the game, which is going to start next week. Radimlo says, I did hit the follow button, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for joining our community. Also, whenever you're here with us, you know, you'll be able to talk to other Destiny veterans, and you can exchange, you know, views and experiences, and particularly those you mentioned related to Destiny 2. I will keep an eye out for several who are also the veterans of Destiny 2 Forsaken, in order to illuminate you. So if you're all, you know, present here and watching the channel in the same forum, then I'll connect you. You'll be able to you know, run an open discussion on ins and outs, what you like the best and everything else. And maybe with the guys who can progress with the seasons, they'll be able to tell you what the score was and what the frustrations were. So it'd be definitely very interesting. And thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you. That is thank you to Riding Low for being with us tonight. He is now departing. So also we looked at 3 separate editions of the Division 2. All of them will be coming out on Friday of next week officially. And as we've seen, we've got one edition, which is the standard edition, and then we have the one called Gold, and then the Ultimate. The best one of 3 is the Ultimate. It costs about £90, but also it gives you the 1-year annual pass together with 3 service packs. 3 service packs contain, well, 2 service packs contain kind of cosmetic items, but 1 service pack contains items which are going to be affecting your gameplay. There's some weapons and there's some kit which is going to be highly significant right at the beginning. It will make you a lot stronger, so it's definitely worth considering. And you get all 3 service packs as well as the annual pass on that price, which is going to save you quite a bit of money. The annual pass otherwise will cost you between $40 and $50. So all of that is incorporated into this Ultimate Edition. Very glad to see that they're offering it right from the beginning. Makes it easier for the gamers to decide. And I can certainly tell you that from my point of view, after loving and enjoying this open beta, I will be very much looking forward to the game release, and then indeed playing it, creating new squads with my teammates and online friends as well as our community members, and doing many broadcasts of the Division 2. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for participating. Hope you enjoyed the review. It was an open review. It did last almost 4 hours. We talked about lots of different things. We had a lot of fun. There have been lots of interesting comments and views said about the game. And we talked also about other tactical shooters and, you know, the games which are related, such as Rainbow Six Siege, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Apex Legends, Battlefield, and many other ones. So, we are coming to the end of our broadcast. I'm very grateful to everyone who was here tonight. Thank you very much for coming, watching, joining, providing us with your comments and views. I would like to invite you to join the channel and join our community of experienced gamers. As you know, the channel has been pegged to Destiny, but I also stream other games, and I also run other industry related forums where we talk about, well, games which are to come out, as well as certain things happening in the game industry world. So plenty of good activities and interesting content for you to enjoy. Lots of great guys and community members whom you can engage with, not just for chats and discussions here on the channel, but also for teaming up and squadding up independently. I'm very pleased to say that I had quite a few people creating new squads for raids, for strikes, and for gameplay on Destiny. I've had people asking me to help them with new squad mates for Destiny on Xbox, and we were able to obviously get some support through Twitter. We had people coming in and discussing concept art related to many of the games which we introduced here through Instagram, and then coming here. So we have quite a interesting community of people coming here to share information, thoughts and views on the regular basis. As I said, we always welcome all of our new members. We want to see as much communication as possible, and what I enjoy doing the best is creating a dialogue. Gaming is not a solitary activity, and it certainly should not be allowed to transform into something which would be seen as a gamer in a dark room doing everything by himself. We are progressing towards the multiplayers generally, and the vast majority of the games are having this sort of multiplayer facility. That makes it a lot more interesting for everyone to watch broadcast, to contribute, to participate, to provide comments, and also to come in as a community member to play the game, to connect with others, to create new friendships, to make new bonds. Online gaming and multiplayer activity is all about community, it's all about connectivity and communication, and this is what this channel is about. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for communicating. Thank you for being a part of our community. Hope to see you very soon. Hope you enjoyed the review. If so, drop us a line. Let us know what you liked and what you disliked. All the comments you gave me on the Division 2, I will be forwarding, and obviously anonymously, as a the feedback coming from my broadcasting community to the developer. The developer is Massive Entertainment, and they will be delighted to receive everything that's been said here. And then obviously we'll just eagerly wait for that 15th to unravel, or indeed for the 12th if you pre-ordered, in order to crack on with the Division 2 and enjoy the gameplay. So thank you all for coming, and on that note I will wish you all a very, very good night.